Warp, 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 warp. Hello, guys. Welcome to something new. Bears in Time and Space. A discussion. Well, it may end up being a general discussion of Doctor Who. Me and Connor last night finished watching Doctor Who Flux, season 13.
I want to say 13?
Yeah, 13. And the last full Jodie Hauser season of Doctor Who and the last full Chibnall season of Doctor
Jodie
Who.
Hauser.
Because she writes me Doctor Who comics, I mix my Jodies up. Jodie Whittaker. Too many Jodies involved in Doctor Who, man.
Yeah, that is the first and only time you've ever been able to say that.
So you want too many Jodies involved in Doctor Who?
Yeah. How often have you been able to say that in its past 60 odd years?
Well, yeah. I mean, there could be a lot of Jodies involved in Doctor Who over the years.
I suspect if they have, it's been in the last couple of decades.
Yeah. I know Doctor Who's always been quite forward.
Oh, it has. It has.
In regards to talent behind the screen.
I just mean institutionally in cinema in the 60s and 70s and 80s. There was, factually speaking, less women involved.
Yes, although its first producer was Victoria Lambert.
Yeah. That is true. Not arguing with that.
But yes, it's an interesting season.
It is a season of Doctor Who.
It is a divisive season, but then what Doctor Who isn't divisive? I can remember when everyone hated all the Moffat's era, and then all of a sudden now it's the golden child we must return to.
I still prefer most of this over Moffat's era. I like a lot of Moffat's era. Don't get me wrong.
Well, I'm gonna go out and say this for me is up there with my favourite season of New Who, which was season 5.
Which one was fire?
That's First Smith season.
Okay, yeah. Well, it's a good season. It's a good season.
And yeah, this is, for better or worse, this is very much like 80s Doctor Who.
Yes, this is Doctor Who,
Like
as perhaps a lot of people have never seen before. If
Yes.
you are familiar only with New Who,
having just watched Trial of the Time Lords as well, which I've never seen before, it's like, and how Trial of the Time Lords was kind of the start of the death knell for Doctor Who.
Yeah.
I still can't shake the feeling that this
This is
maybe.
very much an homage to that in a lot of ways.
If
Isn't
it wasn't for the fact that it's getting an influx of cash next time round, albeit from outside of the BBC, I would still hold that this may be the start of the end for.
I think that was the assumption, to be honest, for a lot of time.
It's also worth noting that this was made under COVID pandemic restrictions, which makes it an even more impressive feat.
Well, it's not just it was made under those, it's the reason why it exists. This was originally going to be a full traditional season of Doctor Who. You know, the probably 10-ish episodes, this is what we've been getting lately.
Also,
And then the pandemic hit, and they were told, do you know what, we're having to make cuts, things are going to be awkward, you're only going to get 6 episodes, and it got completely reworked into being this one 6-episode serial.
and it's fascinating. It is a fascinating serial. And only the third time in Doctor Who history they've kind of done this. And I'd argue the first time they've ever really done it. Because while Key to Time and Trial of the Time Lords are serial, they still have distinct serials
And by that,
within them.
what you mean is season-long
Yes, season-long
serials.
Yes.
Yeah, and those were all made under, if I recall, like individual, multiple production blocks still split up into the sub serials, as I suppose they were.
I guess in many ways this is like a traditional Doctor Who serial, just in general.
I think I did see someone, if you break it down to rather than episode count or season count, just in terms of pure minutes,
it's the second longest.
Yeah, it's up there. It's like first or second.
Trial of the Time Lord beats it, but
not by as much as you'd think, though.
No.
I think.
So every episode here is written by Chris Chibnall.
Yeah.
And it's all directed by the same two people, James Magnus Stone and Azur Salim.
Did they co-direct them all, or did they take it in
No,
turns?
episode 1 and 2 are Stone. Episode 3 is Salim. Episode 4 is Stone. Episode 5 and 6 are Salim.
Okay.
Okay. It's safe to say we're both Doctor Who fans. And with Doctor Who fans, like, I think we both subscribe to the notion that we love Doctor Who even when it's bad, and by God, it's frequently bad, right? Like,
Yep. Yeah, I don't know about you. I mean, obviously, I first got into Doctor Who with New Who because we are of an age roughly
yes,
where
I would
that
say
was.
the same. I have memories of seeing earlier stuff. I have a memory of seeing the Autons at some point in my youth, which I think must have been a 90s reshowing of Spearhead of Space.
Probably.
And then I have these memories of a Doctor Who Dalek thing that I've never been able to place. For years, I thought maybe it was the Hammer films.
Okay.
But having watched them, not recently, but as in adult life, I realised it wasn't. That isn't what I was remembering. And I think, because I was doing a little looking into it the other day, and they reshowed Pertwee's Planet of the Daleks in 93, when I would have been 4. And this is a very vague, hazy memory, so I could have been that young.
It could be from that.
And I've never seen that serial as an adult, so I may use BritBox to watch it and see if that actually does match.
BritBox is your best friend right now.
Yes. The only downside to BritBox, it hasn't got any of the exhaustive special features that are on the home releases, and are very good.
That is true, but hey, the fact that there is so much available to watch,
yes,
at all is pretty astounding.
And that they're slowly putting the animated stuff up as well.
They are. I'm really because I'm watching. For context, I'm currently watching through stuff in order. I started not that long ago. I'm currently working through the second Doctor stuff, and the 2 animated stuff they're putting up. I can't remember which ones they are. The ones
Fury
in season
from the Deep
4.
and
Power of the Daleks.
Power of the Daleks is already up. That's his first serial.
That's right. Fury of the Daleks.
Evil of the Daleks.
Evil.
I think
Fury of the Evil of the Daleks. Yes,
Fury of the Deep. Yes. Evil of the Daleks.
Yes, I think that one. I think they're both going up.
You're gonna buy Underwater Menace?
Later this month. It's really frustrating because I don't really want to buy because I'd essentially be at a point where I could watch them tomorrow. I've got 6 episodes before I'm at that point. Where I'm like, I don't really want to spend the money on them when they're going up this month.
But Underwater Menace isn't going up this month.
Which one?
One of them isn't going up this month.
Yeah, there's 2 going up in December.
Yeah, and one isn't. And I don't know if that one comes before the 2 that are going up.
Which ones? Do you know which ones are going up?
It's definitely Evil of the Daleks.
Yeah, I'm sure it's Evil of the Daleks and Faceless Ones.
Oh, Faceless Ones, yes.
I think those might be the ones going up.
Second Doctor's cool, isn't he? I like Troughton's Doctor.
Yeah, I appreciate just from the start like how different they were. Like, no, this isn't just a different face. This is kind of a different personality. Like right up from the bat.
Also realised upon watching Trial of a Time Lord and then the first episode of McCoy's Doctor, Colin Baker is now the only Doctor who's never had an on-screen regeneration. Because he was fired between seasons and they put Sylvester McCoy in a Colin Baker wig and just had him roll over.
No, you're right, yeah.
And now, obviously, the gang got his regeneration on the 50th anniversary.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's the only Doctor without an on-screen regeneration.
It's kind of sad.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. And obviously, I've been listening to Big Finish. I've listened to a handful of Big Finish stuff in the past, but I've kind of been going through stuff. You've started dabbling in...
I've started dabbling in 6 Doctor audios, and I'm getting why even this early on, because I'm watching the monthly range of his from roughly the start-ish.
Yeah, like 99, 2000, whatever that was,
and
give or
even
take.
This early on, I get why people go, oh yeah, audio is where 6 shines.
Well, I didn't realise that was the consensus. So 6 was by far the biggest surprise for me in the audio stuff, in where, like 7, 5, they're both, because all the first chunk of stuff is 5, 6, and 7, basically. Yes. And I'm like, yeah, 7 and 5, they're both fine. They're enjoyable enough. But 6, I'm like, oh man, 6 is fantastic. Like, and it's just like, oh, I'm at a point where I see a 6 stories up
And
next.
you
I'm
don't
going
have
to
to look
enjoy
at the
that one.
coat.
That is maybe that's what does it.
And 6 and 8 are probably the two that audio served the best, because I guess they were the most shortchanged when it came to.
Quite possibly. I think they've had a bit more freedom because I did notice that the first story I told you that really stood out to me was the Marion conspiracy.
Yes, and that's
which was
what I listened to and was like, you know what, I'm just gonna plow through 6.
yeah. And for anyone interested, the first 50 odd at least of these are up on Spotify
And Apple Music, if that is your case. If you are on Apple Music, don't make the mistake I did and buy a month of Spotify to listen to some. When they're sitting on a subscription service you already pay monthly for.
Yeah. So if you're interested in these, that you probably have one of those services. Let's be honest.
Yep, and also the first 100 are £2.99 a piece on Big Finish as well, or 12 for 36 quid.
Yeah, they're pretty accessible. But Marion Conspiracy, I think it was notable. That was the first one that stood out to me. That was the first one where they introduced a new companion to the audio as well with Evelyn.
Yes.
And I think it's notable that it's like, oh no, this is where they're not relying on, this character. There's a lot more free range with 6. Like I say, they've got that reputation to overturn. They can kind of get away with a bit more. Plus a new companion where they've got a complete blank slate to do whatever they want with.
The ones of a 50-year-old companion as well.
Yeah.
Which is an old companion isn't a usual for the TV show.
No. But speaking of the TV show, Flux is giving us the idea of, we can have more non-human companions again.
Yep. So on to Flux, shall we move?
We should. This is what we're here for.
The Halloween Apocalypse, episode 1. Doctor and Yaz have clearly been adventuring for a while after Graham and Ryan left them.
Yes.
And they're hunting someone called Carvanista, who keeps trying to kill them and lay traps for them. And oh my god, his emotional arc throughout this series by the time you get to the end of it.
Oh my god, that last episode.
Okay, Carvanista is a alien dog.
Essentially, yeah.
That I think when everyone first seen it was like, oh boy, this is the 80s.
And by the end, it's like, he is one of the best characters in modern Doctor Who.
Yeah, it's like, I thought, oh man, this looks bad. And then by the end, like, dog aliens for the win!
Yeah, I know by the end, the actor who was playing him was like, yeah, I'm down for a spin-off. So, a Big Finish, get on the phone.
And we learned that, what's their species again? Lupari. And we learned that they're bonded, every Lupari is bonded to a human.
Yes.
And Carvanista pulls the short straw and is bonded with John Bishop.
Yes. And the idea here is dog is man's best friend.
Yeah.
So let's take that and make it an alien for Doctor Who.
This episode is all over the place.
I would say the first 4 episodes are all over the place.
This one in particular, though.
Yes.
Because it's set in, I guess because we don't get how all these moving parts are even, or what they're here for yet. So this episode does introduce us to Vinda, who is just sitting on a space station somewhere.
Yeah.
Vinda is a future human, but somehow also exists in contemporary time.
Yes. I would say maybe not human or humanoid species from a different planet.
Maybe. There's enough human empires, though, throughout Doctor Who history that...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's difficult.
It's murky.
Also,
let's not think about it too much.
A little flashback to previous Doctor Who. It's also worth noting that all those 70s unit stories take place at least a decade after they're shown.
Well, that's debatable.
It was
there
at
are
least
arguments for
considered
both.
at the time that they took place in the 80s, not the 70s.
Yes, but there's evidence for both, isn't there?
Yeah. This is definitely 2021, though. That is stated at least several times.
It is, yes.
Yeah, we meet our new companion, Dan, who likes to hang out in and give him free tours of museums because he just
Tends
loves
to be a
Liverpool.
tour guide.
Yeah, He loves Liverpool. We're introduced to a romantic interest for him, who is a bit frustrated at him giving free tours at her actual job of, I'm guessing, giving tours.
One would assume, yeah.
Yeah. And they agree to meet up. Dan gets kidnapped by Carvanista. Stuff happens. No one has a clue why. It's all very weird, this episode.
Yes, because I believe this is the episode where Calvinist just breaks into his house and starts
shrinks his
going
house
off.
and steals him.
Yeah. It's
Carvanista is definitely meant to, or at least we're meant to think of him as a villain at this point, I kind of think.
Yeah, well, I mean, Doctor
I'm
he has to
guessing
do as well. They're like,
full-
he's been kidnapped.
I never gave a warning before we started talking. Full spoilers for Doctor Who Flux in this.
Yeah. Just, it's such a bizarre series. Like,
Yeah.
the first 4 episodes, I don't know what, like...
Oh, we meet Claire in this episode as well, who just runs down the street and says to the Doctor, like, "Hey, Doc," and then later gets stolen by a weeping angel.
Yep.
Oh my... Yeah, like...
The first, like, few episodes have so many plot threads that at the end of episode 4, which is 2/3 through,
Yes.
we were both saying to each other, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't understand how they're going to possibly tie this together.
At the end of this episode, I thought, like, I don't think that was good, and I'm not entirely convinced I liked it. But I'm intrigued.
I watched 1 and 2 back to back, so I am a little bit like...
I did watch it weekly.
Yeah, I missed the first week because of work.
We get a big inkling of a growth in the Doctor and Yaz's relationship in this episode as well, and how the Doctor is famously still just shutting everyone out because the Doctor is rather aggressive in how much he shuts Yaz out at various points throughout this season.
It's very much the Doctor, though, isn't it?
Yeah. So, second episode. Because unless you've got any other thoughts on the first one.
No, like I said, it was all over the place. I wasn't sure it was good at this point, but I went straight on to episode 2.
We don't meet the Grand Serpent yet.
I wasn't going to miss it.
Oh, we have got, obviously, the hints of division. Because that's why the Doctor is looking for Carvanista.
Yeah. Does Sontaran show up in 1, or is that 2?
That's 2.
This is what happened when I watched the 2 basically on the same night.
In episode 2, we have War of the Sontarans. Oh, because at the end of the first episode, they're fleeing the Flux.
Yes.
Can't forget that.
The titular Flux.
Yeah. It's eating up the universe. And the Doctor sticks a TARDIS in the way of it.
Why not? That always does the trick.
Yep. And it ends with... Oh, and Vinda is also on the run from it in... Oh, no. Did we pick Vinda up?
I don't think they do they?
No, Vinda is also on the run of it. I'm trying to remember where we bump into Vinda, and I just remembered.
Yeah.
So many moving parts, man.
Yeah, there's...
Oh, and we can't forget, the actual very start of the episode is set in, like, mid to late 1800s Liverpool, and we meet Joseph Williamson, who I would commonly and rather kindly refer to throughout the rest of this episode as the Tunnel Man.
The Tunnel Man works.
Who in real life was also known as the Mad Mole. He is a real historical character who built tunnels really under Liverpool for no conceivable reason.
Which you kind of get to by the last episode when the Doctor finally meets him.
Which is such a weird bit of history that I love that the team was just like, yep, let's use that. Because I can't imagine it's the most commonly known history. I thought he was a fictional character until...
I wonder if it is relatively well known in Liverpool. Like, it's one of those things that people just know about because it's weird local history, right?
Oh.
Everyone knows the weird local history about their place.
What do you feel about John Bishop as Dan as well?
It's John Bishop, but I like John Bishop, so that's okay.
I've got a friend who's not a big fan of John Bishop in this, or John Bishop in general. It's like, he can't act very well. I was like, he's not really trying to. He's just being John Bishop on screen, and that's all he kind of needs to be.
Yeah, I think if they'd just said it was John Bishop...
The TARDIS could have picked up John Bishop and it would have had the exact same effect.
Yeah, you have to change his backstory very slightly, but everything else kind of works.
And I was fine with him throughout. I quite enjoyed the dynamic he brought of just being It's in the in episode 1 as well, where he goes in the TARDIS and he's like, "Oh, my mate's is bigger."
Yeah, and I'm enjoying again something from Chibnall's run in particular is we can have older companions again. Like,
Yeah.
let's be fair, Dan Bishop's not he's not a sprightly young fella anymore.
No, he's
And
not maybe
obviously
as
we had
old as Bradley Walsh, but
yes,
Bradley Walsh
but
was great as Graham.
oh, he was great. But I mean, he's not a young man. Is the
No.
point here? He's a middle-aged man,
So
a very normal person. Is
Yeah.
kind of the idea here.
So yeah, they after flying into the way of the Flux, the TARDIS gets damaged, and they end up in Crimea
Yes,
during the Crimean War. But
but
instead of
things have changed.
yes, the Centaurans are here.
Yeah,
The Centaurans have
they've always
decided
been here as
to
far as
invade
they're.
Earth throughout all of history.
Yeah, and I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, they've essentially replaced Russia on the map.
Yes, because the Centaurans have a plot.
Don't they always? It's always the same plot.
They are,
Take
however,
over the universe, kill
they
everyone.
are the most plotty of the big villains.
They are. Sometimes especially in this season, to the point of questionable as to why.
However,
Beyond just they're Sontarans.
I like the Centaurans as a villain.
Yeah.
I think they're fun. They really like war. Like, they make a good villain for a Doctor who generally claims to not like it.
Yeah, it works.
We meet maybe Seacole.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got a nice historical kind of here.
Yeah, it's a staple of Who, isn't it?
Yep, only historical kind of.
What's that?
Our only historical kind of this season.
Well, you got the Mad Mole as well.
Yeah. This is just all a Who in a blender, isn't it? Like, just...
No, that is what this season is Chibnall realised this is his last season. He's got 3 specials that he's got.
One feature length, it's worth pointing out.
Presumably the last one.
Yeah, because it's the centenary of BBC, isn't it? So they're
Yes,
going
you're
for
right.
the centenary special for BBC is a big feature-length Doctor Who episode.
Cool. All for it.
Which is going to
And
be...
that'll be
Regeneration.
Jodie's last episode.
Yeah.
But you've got...
And arguably the BBC's last episode. But more on that later.
Yeah, we'll get to that. So you've got obviously the New Year's special, which is the end of his trilogy of Dalek New Year's specials.
Yes, which I only just realised. Oh yeah, he's done a trilogy of them. They're fine. But I would say the same about most Doctor Who specials. There's a few of them that actually stand out as...
I like more than I dislike, but that's because they're Doctor Who. I think the only one that's really like quote unquote important would be the first Tennant one, right? Because that was like Tennant's first episode.
I guess End of Time.
Shit, yeah. That's not really. It's not Christmas or New Year's themed in the way the other ones are, though, is it? That was just it happens to be airing that week because that aired Christmas Day and New Year's Day, right?
I think it takes place over Christmas, but
I think it does, but it's not. It doesn't play into it in the same way that all the other ones do.
They're fluffy. That's how I would describe most of the specials.
Yes. When we say the specials there, we mean the holiday specials, not the specials as in what you had at the end of Tennant's run or what we're going to have.
Although I might even use the description for most of those bar Waters from Mars as well.
Yeah, but you say that there's only Waters of Mars. You got the Time 2-parter at the end,
Planet
right?
of the Dead.
Yeah, that one maybe, but
there's another one. Is it in between Planet of the Dead and Waters of Mars?
I don't think there is. Is there?
No, I don't think there is actually. I think I'm just making up an entirely.
Because you had the Christmas special from the year before, whatever that one was, which is just a traditional holiday special.
Which no, because that would have come after Donna had left. That one.
Yes. I'm gonna have to check what this is now because it's gonna annoy the hell out of me. But because
Planet of the Dead aired around Easter time.
That was Easter. Yes, I know that. And then you had the
I think
Wars of Mars.
the special year counts that Christmas special before Planet of the Dead, though. Like, if you buy the specials on box set, it's...
Possibly, yeah. Let me have a look. Really? Okay, IMDb is frustrating, and instead of putting them at the end of season 4 or at the start of season 5, it just puts them in unknown. Right, so the Christmas special before was The Next Doctor.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the one where the guy thinks he was the Doctor,
I
mind
saw,
wiped
speaking
Cyberman.
of, I saw a recent article talking about, people you won't believe who were in Doctor Who before they were famous.
Go on.
And one of them was David Morrissey in The Next Doctor. And obviously they're thinking Walking Dead, right? Clearly.
Sure, yeah.
But it's like, David Morrissey, before he was in that, was still David Morrissey.
That's kind of especially in a lot of those specials, they get guest actors who
And
people are recognizable, right?
they managed to make us think that David Morrissey may actually be the next Doctor for a hot minute there as well.
Because it was plausible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yes, you had that one. Then you had Planet of the Dead, which I would say, out of the year of specials, is the fluffy one. But the Next Doctor, again, it was a traditional Christmas special.
Yes.
So it's fluffy by nature.
But
Then you had Waters of Mars, and then
which is
the End of
single-handedly
Time.
one of the best David Tennant episodes.
Waters of Mars is probably my single favourite episode of Doctor Who.
Yeah, it's good.
Like, it's phenomenal.
I need to check out the Time Lord Victorious media project.
Me too. I have a friend at work who has experienced all of it, who says it's well worth it.
Which is a 8, 9, and 10 multi-Doctor story of effectively 8 and 9 having to stop 10 from doing something bad.
Yeah, and it takes place over audio dramas, books, and comics.
2 hardcover novels, a Titan comic, a 2-part Panini story that I may have found a copy on eBay earlier of a collected version of it that was put in with a magazine at a later date for $1.99. So I put a bid on it. I'll either win it or I won't, but why it was that cheap,
I'm going to go and put a bid of $2.50 on it.
It's just going to be me and you bidding out.
It'll show up for one of us and be like, ha, screw you.
And and 2 hardback books. And I think about 4 or 5. There's even a 4th Doctor story in the audio dramas.
Yeah, it's a fair bit. But one of my mates at work has watched most of Classic Who, all of New Who up until like season 10, and then basically all of Big Finish stuff and like a lot of the books, but has not watched like basically any of the last couple of seasons for whatever reason.
Stuff.
Yeah, I think they've still got the like half of Capaldi's last season.
So halfway through season 10 then.
Yeah. It's like such a weird person to
the
do
last
that.
Chunk of Capaldi is great.
It's probably the best stuff Capaldi had.
Yeah. That I mean the best thing he did was the Zygon speech.
Oh yeah, that was good.
And Hellbent.
Yeah. I get
Heaven Sent, Hell's
Heaven
Bells.
Sent. Those two, I don't remember which is which, but
Heaven Sent
the one
is
inside
the solo
the thing.
Capaldi one, yeah.
Yeah, that episode is fantastic. That's one of those that's probably like top 5, top 10 of episodes.
So yeah, War of the Sontarans a lot of time feels very much traditional, like a bit of a bastion of a traditional Who story in here. Although Yaz and Dan end up vanishing because of the Flux and the TARDIS and stuff. Yeah.
Don't think about it too hard. Which is
I've seen
good
other people
advice
like,
for all the
oh,
Doctor
so
Who
much of this
fans.
stuff hasn't been answered or makes sense. And it's like, yeah, it's Doctor Who. It very rarely makes sense. Like,
yeah,
it's not exactly known for it making a large
make it
amount
up
of
as
sense.
you go along. As long as it's enjoyable, it's fine.
And they end up on the planet Time. Dan bumps into Tunnel Man, who's somehow also on the planet Time. And he's just like, my tunnels. My view on the Tunnel Man is he effectively walks into random scenes throughout most of this and just goes, my tunnels, and walks out.
He is there to confuse you for most of the season. He's there just to be the mystery of like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, he usually just bumps into a character, rants about his tunnels a bit, and vanishes.
Yeah. By the time it's explained in episode 5, you're like, Oh, sure, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
In the logic that is Doctor Who, by that point you're like, yeah, sure, okay, that works. That was, relatively speaking, quite a simple answer for this show.
Yeah, it's
Just there for the mystery for most of the season of just being like, who the hell is this guy?
and it does work to bring a lot of stuff together. It serves a purpose.
It has a narrative purpose, yeah.
But yeah, the Doctor and Mary Seacole managed to defeat the Centaurans, despite the interference of a man who likes war as well.
Yep.
These people tend to be a problem.
Yeah, this is again another classic Doctor Who kind of thing to play with.
Like the Doctor's being like, "Hey, why don't you try not killing each other?" And they're like, "Nah, we're going to kill each other."
We like the killing.
Yeah, it's kind of what we're here for.
Yeah, we're soldiers.
Worth pointing out, it's always people in charge.
Most of the time, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a solid episode. Ends up with the Doctor regrouping with them on the planet Time, which is apparently where Time is imprisoned. Who did that? Who knows? But yeah, Time is apparently imprisoned on this planet.
Yeah.
And some mysterious aliens are holding it in place, but they've now been destroyed. Oh, you know what we didn't mention in episode 1?
Go on.
The Swarm and Azure.
Oh, yeah.
The actual villains of it.
Were they in episode 1?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's so much in this.
Some prisoners have been unleashed from an ancient prison that apparently was where Division were holding them. Again, we don't know who Division is.
Yes, mysterious organisation
called Division. That Vinder works for Division, right? I'm pretty sure in most early episodes it's claimed that he was working for Division.
Maybe.
As was the Grand Serpent.
I don't know about Grand Serpent. I don't think so.
I think it's hinted at their Division.
Maybe.
Who knows? Doesn't really matter.
Not really. There'll be a story to pick up on it later if there were.
Yeah. Swarm and Azure, some ancient evil that has been imprisoned and is now free. Swarm was imprisoned on a meteorite asteroid somewhere. Azure seemingly weirdly imprisoned in the body of a human that never gets picked up on ever again.
Yeah, and they hate the Doctor.
Yeah, they hate the Doctor. It's implied the Doctor is one of the people who imprisoned them.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the time we get to War of Centaurans, they're attacking the planet Time to free Time. They have this power where they can disintegrate people.
Yes, which they do use a reasonable amount.
Yeah, and they also have some weird hooded dude hovering around with them.
Yes, the prisoner form.
Yes, that is revealed to be a transport for prisoners, which again is a concept a whole episode would have been hung upon at one point. And that's the thing. This season is full of ideas that whole episodes may have been hung upon in a more traditional series.
It feels like Chibnall knew he was out of time to do a lot of stuff he wanted to.
Yeah.
These were probably all ideas he had for this 10 to 12 episode season that he was originally commissioned for.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, I'm going to do it all anyway, and someone else can have fun with it later.
So yeah, these they've put Dan and the Doctor have together again, but Yaz and Vinder, who had met up on the planet Time, are now being used holding Time in prison.
Yeah.
And yeah, Swarm's about to kill people. So to save them all, in episode 3, the Doctor jumps into a time storm.
Yes. And this is where
God, this show.
Things start getting interesting, I would say.
Yes, this is definitely where things start getting interesting. I guess
just thinking about the ludicrousness of this season.
I intended this to be a review, but it's really just turning into me explaining what happens in the show, so I'm not sure how entertaining this would actually be. Instead of listening to me, you could probably just watch the show.
I suspect we'll get to review stuff kind of after. You kind of have to talk about the insanity of
Yeah.
everything before you kind of say what was good and bad. Because how do you say this was good and this was bad when who knows what half of this stuff even is?
Yeah.
I think the first episode's one I thought was fine. Two was solid, enjoyable. Again, at this point in the season, I'm like, there's a lot going on here because it's throwing ideas left, right, and center. There's so much every episode. These are dense episodes,
Yes, definitely.
but I'm starting to get to the point of I think I'm enjoying this.
So this is everyone being lost in time.
Yeah,
Dan flashes back to. Does Dan flash back to anything?
I don't remember what Dan was doing in this episode, to be honest.
Yaz is flashing back at least to. She hides them all in the pasts, basically.
Yeah,
Yaz is going through like her policing.
yep,
We see who Vinder is. We learn his backstory and how
yeah,
he was
which is
promoted.
kind of interesting.
He was promoted to be a bodyguard for a figure called the Grand Serpent.
Yeah, who it turns out is a dictator,
Yes,
and Vinda makes a moral stance against at some point in the episode.
and gets exiled to an asteroid.
Yeah,
And we're introduced to the Grand Serpent, another character.
who I think the fans built up more than was necessary.
Yes, people thought he was going to be the master.
No, the Mara.
Oh, did people think for Mara? I saw
Because all the
lots of people.
snakes.
I saw a lot of people claiming he was going to be the master.
I can see it with a name like Grand Serpent, but Mara, there's a lot of links
I'm
with
not sure
snakes and
but as a
stuff.
character, he doesn't really make much sense as the Mara.
I think it was just all the snake iconography.
Yeah, I guess.
And the snake tattoos as well,
Yeah, sure.
which again was Mara stuff. And I thought maybe this was a reimagining rather than
Yeah,
anything literal.
but yeah, evil man
Yeah, evil man with some snake powers.
comes back later. But at the moment, at this point in the past, a dictator of a galactic empire. We're also introduced in this episode to Belle, who is a survivor of a Flux, travelling through the destroyed universe, because the Flux has eaten most of the universe at this point.
Yep.
On a Lupari ship, kind of saving people, to be fair. Or trying to.
Trying
to find someone.
Yeah.
And she's pregnant and has a little robot friend that is her unborn child. Which
Yeah,
again is an idea you could have hung an episode on.
It was a very Black Mirror-esque concept, that.
Yeah. But they like the character.
Yeah. Other than it being Scottish, you know. That drags it down a bit.
And the Doctor is also swirling through their past,
Yes, which is
where things
fascinating.
start to get interesting. We see her on a mission in the past of the planet Time to free some hostages from Swarm and Azure with Yaz and Vinder and Dan.
Yes.
And then we see in the mirror the fugitive Doctor, played by Joe Martin.
Yep. Which again, okay, so this is the point of the show of the season where we're playing with Chibnall's error here quite
Yes.
definitively. He's
So
kind of
we're touching on what he revealed at the end of the last season.
Yeah.
That there is incarnations of a Doctor she has forgotten about from potentially pre-Hartnell. We don't know for sure, but we're assuming.
I think I've got some maybe compelling arguments as to why it's not.
Okay. We can
But
go
we'll
over
get
them
there.
at the.
Yeah.
And also, it's revealed that Dan, Yaz, and Vinder are different people as well.
Yes,
They're
they
also
are kind of like
because that's the thing, they're all seeing themselves in each other's memories. Like,
yeah, because they're kind of all in this together.
Yaz is the officer who promotes and then I guess exiles Vinder, and I still can't remember what Dan's flashbacks were.
Is he just knocking around Liverpool?
Yeah, he's probably just knocking around Liverpool.
Because he doesn't have like a massively interesting past in the same way that the others do, right?
Yeah, he's probably just knocking around Liverpool. It doesn't say it in the summary of the episode either, so I can't imagine it was anything that memorable.
No.
But it is implied also that Dan, in this memory, is Carvanista.
Which, at the time when we were talking about this, you were like, man, how long do these things live? Yeah, by the end, maybe not necessarily that long. They might live long, but not stupidly long, perhaps.
Well, time. But
Yeah.
no, but they still like, even time travel aside, this was before Azure and Swarm had been imprisoned, and that was thousands of years ago.
Just because he was there thousands of years ago doesn't mean he lived chronologically thousands of years.
The Doctor picked him up and took him.
Yes.
There's a significant enough gap between.
There's
He's
a
lived a
healthy
life after.
Yes, but to get to spoil some stuff that's a little bit later, potentially no more than any other companion that we've picked up down the line has.
Yes. This is why time travel is confusing.
Yeah, just because he was there, just to, okay, so we learn later he was at one point the Doctor's companion, presumably with the fugitive Doctor, but I mean, stands to reason, but maybe more than just her. So just because he was there on this mission with the Division thousands of years ago doesn't mean that he wasn't dropped off, relatively speaking, closer to present day, being 2021, and has lived, for all we know, he could have lived 30 years in the, he could have been dropped off in the 80s.
And we get a mysterious old lady who has a go at the Doctor for messing with time.
Yeah.
But the Doctor manages to get everyone out, get everyone onto the TARDIS, escape from the bad guys, return Vinder to his home planet that has been ravaged by the Flux. It's revealed that he's looking for Belle, as Belle is looking for him, as their partners, and it's his child.
Yeah, which he does not know about.
No. And then they leave Vinder there, hop back off in the TARDIS, but oh no, a weeping angel has the TARDIS.
And this is the moment of the season where I remember going, oh, this is wild.
Yeah.
This is the part where I go, I don't even care anymore if this is, because at this point I was like, I don't think this is good, but I'm having fun.
Yeah. Same.
It's just throwing shit
I think
at the
it's
wall,
the next episode that convinces it was actually good.
It's, I wouldn't even know if I'd say that yet. I'd say episode 4 is an episode that I know was a good episode.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sure it was a good season at that point still. Like, I didn't think that necessarily the season was being good.
There's a lot of people who would disagree with our notion that it is a good season.
Right, but I didn't know, because episode 4, which is the Weeping Angels episode, I remember coming out of going, we have finally had the second good Weeping Angels episode.
Yes, because we actually use the Weeping Angels in the way their lore kind of states, instead of just the creepy angels who skulk around.
Who zap you a bit, yeah.
Like, we see, oh no, they are assassins for hire.
Yeah, don't know what you paid them in, but...
Yeah.
Maybe victims? I don't know. Maybe just pay them in victims.
Who knows? They do eat time, so...
Right, yeah.
Maybe,
they eat the energy, right? So you can pay them in victims, and that's sustenance.
Yeah.
And, who doesn't like getting paid in food?
But yeah, effectively end up in the TARDIS. Doctor reboots for TARDIS, kicking the angel out, and we end up in a village called Mediton in 1967. There's an old lady going around implying that the angels were here before.
Yeah.
And then we find a scientist doing experiments with Claire from episode 1.
Yeah.
Who had been kidnapped by Weeping Angel in the basement.
Sure, why not?
And turns out she hadn't met the Doctor before then, she just psychically knew the Doctor.
Yes, because she has psychic abilities.
Yeah, she's very strong psychically. Which, psychic powers are a thing, and the Doctor's psychic. It's fine.
Yeah,
which
it actually does a lot of Doctor being psychic in this season.
I just want to go on a slight side tangent for a moment. Having just watched this season, I was watching the latest episode of Star Trek Discovery earlier.
There's a lot of Vulcan mind meld going on in this.
Yeah, but there's something that... have you seen the latest episode of Disco?
I haven't watched any of this season.
Okay. You haven't seen Picard either, have you?
Nope.
You've seen last season, though, so you at least have a rough idea of the concept of Romulan battle nuns.
Sure.
Which, again, is a sentence, man. Romulan battle nuns.
Yeah.
And I realise what modern Star Trek is reminding me a hell of a lot of. And it's new Doctor Who.
In a good way?
In a it is what it is way. Like, because I realised,
Okay.
like, I was watching it, it's like, oh, they're using Romulan battle nuns because they just want an excuse to use swords in the future. Because
Sure.
swords are infinitely more exciting to watch a sword fight than it is a phaser fight.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah, so and I love the I'm calling them Romulan battle nuns, but I do know the name, but I'm forgetting it. This isn't a Star Trek show, so it's fine.
Yeah.
But I love the whole concept of like, oh, they adopt lost causes. One of them joins, well, an adopted one of them, because they're all women apart from this one in Picard, who's a dude because he was adopted by him.
Sure.
He kind of joins Picard for his because Picard's mission is a lost cause, and that's the idea that these Romulans, they're some of the fiercest warriors in the galaxy, but they only sign up for a lost cause. And
So suicide missions.
And
basically.
they receive that lost cause through to the end, whether it's becomes not a lost cause or not. It's like, and I was watching, it's like, that's such a Doctor Who idea.
It is, but it doesn't have the same level of charm.
I actually think the battle nuns do have a level of charm.
Fair enough.
But and then we were on the Vulcan, and there's this moment where I guess spoilers for Discovery as well. But I'm gonna be recording a review about this tomorrow. That'll be up on Saturday. So
And also, it's not even called Vulcan anymore, is it?
no, Navarre. Which again I like. I actually principally like that concept as well.
Yeah, I have a problem with that. I'm just like, just let's be fair.
Book's Homeworld got blown up in episode 1 of the new.
Okay.
The bad guy this season is a sentient black hole that's moving. See,
That is a Doctor Who concept. Yeah.
and
Which in some ways I think is.
I think
It's weird because it's Trek returning to its 60s roots.
but adding emotion into Star Trek, I actually think does place it close to New Who in kind of.
I get where you're coming from. I think that it's returning to those 60s roots of the zany space ideas.
That as well.
But also, I think it's so caught up in for me, again, not having seen this new season, generally speaking, it's so caught up in the concept of being the modern, flashy, sleek Trek show that I don't think the core ideas that it wants to be, a little bit wacky with, don't really mesh with the aesthetics and tone that it wants most of the time.
It's a Discovery is again, I like Discovery. I get its criticisms, and I think you'll find that in the me and Matt dynamic when we're reviewing them, I'm probably the more critical of the show. But
It's not perfect.
No, but I like it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a stray thought that I sidetracked us onto. Yeah, Village of the Angels. So we get to see a lot of angels attacking a house, and they're slowly zapping people in the village back to the 1900s. We're introduced to Dr. Eustachius Jericho,
Who is fantastic.
Yeah, I wasn't getting it necessarily in this episode completely, but as we get more of him, yes, he's
Do you know,
brilliant.
like after this episode, there were like articles going, the top 10 opportunities that Doctor Who missed for spin-offs, because
Yeah.
traditionally speaking, Doctor Who has not had a lot of spin-offs. Given the
Unless you like audio dramas.
I mean, we're talking about on screen here. Like on-screen spin-offs are very limited.
K9 and Company, Sarah Jane Adventures, Torchwood.
Class,
Class.
which I never watched, but it exists allegedly. But that's about it, right? It's very limited, and it was like, okay, top 10 opportunities they missed for spin-offs, because over its history, there's been a lot of like, here's some fun things that you could play with, and no one ever did, unless your name's Big Finish.
Yeah, Big Finish plays with them all.
Yeah.
It's like
and
Big Finish has like a 14, 15 season Jago and Lightfoot kind.
Yeah, yeah. And they had Eustachius Jericho on this list after this episode.
Yeah.
I was like, really?
There is
Like, don't get me wrong, he was cool, but like, really?
There's a wonderful reveal to him though, like him talking about the horrors of a war, because he's lived through the Second World War. Right, it's implied he was a soldier who liberated camps and things like that.
And given his age, he probably was alive during the First World War as well, right?
Yeah,
He
like
would have been
he's
young.
seen some. Yeah, it is that he's seen some horrific stuff. So the angels don't overly actually phase him. There's those wonderful moments where they're coming in and he's like, "You can't scare me."
It's very if you put the idea of traditional stiff upper lip British,
Yeah,
like that attitude of, you can't let them win sort of thing.
but play it in a gentler way. I
Yes.
think.
Well, that's the thing. I don't think it is that gentle in this first episode. I think he mellows, off screen, so to speak, in the few years that skip. But I don't think he is. I think he is quite brash in this first one.
Dan and Yaz get zapped back to, is it 1901?
Yes, I think because they're double zapped, aren't they?
No, it's a single zap.
Is it? Do they not
double
go
zap's
back?
death? That's
Is it not the 30s and then 01?
No, it's 01 because it's revealed in this episode that a double zap kills you.
Oh yeah, you're right.
That you can only be zapped by an angel once.
Yeah.
What also throws completely out the window here is that the Doctor then can't ever get back. No, it's not actually. Because it's implied that once you've been zapped, you're stuck there. You can't ever get back to your current time ever. Because that's how they wrote out Amy and Rory back in the day.
Yeah, but wasn't there something to do with like there was a time bubble that the Doctor couldn't go and get them from? Something in that episode. I don't remember. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Sure, they wrote in an extra reason at the time.
But yes, so they're exploring 1901. They meet a kid who's missing, who's like adoptive parents or grandparents are terrible, and they get killed by a weeping angel, and you're like, yay!
Yeah, because this is a kid that's missing from the 60s.
Yes. And
who's already been zapped back.
So I think her parents have died and her grandparents look after her or something like that. Or is it her uncles?
Maybe an uncle or a grandparent.
They're terrible people anyway.
I don't think I'd go that far. I wouldn't say they're terrible people, but they're terrible guardians.
I certainly say he's a terrible person. Now, maybe that's overly harsh on the wife. But I'd go as far as say he's a terrible person.
And again, even that, terrible I think might be a stretch for that. He's uncaring about her hobbies and like, what she might like. He's like, she's a young girl. Who cares what she likes?
He seems very uncaring about her in general.
Right.
Like she's just an inconvenience to him.
Perhaps, but he is still out in the middle of the night looking for her.
True, fair enough. I didn't have much sympathy when they got eaten by the angel.
Well, no, me either. But I think he, terrible might have been put in a little bit stronger.
But yeah, you get some cool escaping through angel passages. Some weird time holes opened up. The kid clearly lived in this village all the way back through to the 60s.
Yeah.
Which I guess is rather upsetting for the kid. But
yeah, there's a conversation with them and their adult self in the 60s.
Yeah.
Like, I remember this.
And then the Doctor comes out and gets turned into an angel.
Yes.
Because that's apparently how angels transport prisoners. And there's a whole renegade angel in all of this, who the angels were hunting, who was
living inside of Claire.
Yes, because she had Doctor... that she'd stolen the secrets of a Doctor from Division, this angel had.
Yeah.
And then the angel made a deal with the other angels. Hey, don't kill me, and let's take the Doctor back.
Yeah.
It's amazing the important stuff you can lose track of.
The concept of the rogue angel was fascinating.
It was, yes. But they are... This is the first time you get the idea of them as intelligent creatures.
The idea that they have personality.
Yeah.
And individuals rather than just a collective mass of...
And then allowing them to talk really worked. Like, it's one of those things that might fail miserably.
Mm-hmm.
But it worked. Allowing them to talk en masse to Jericho and the Renegade One talk to the Doctor really added to them and made them actually okay. These are more than gimmick bad guys.
Yeah, and it didn't like forget things from the angels, even in the episodes that we didn't like the whole idea of an image of an angel is an angel.
Yeah, that's played up massively here.
It's pretty important. I still don't like those episodes very much, but I like if we're. I subscribe to the idea that all of Doctor Who happens, the good and the bad, and you kind of just have to play with it, right?
We talk about how Blink is great, but it's not necessarily the angels that make Blink great. What makes Blink great is the narrative construct around them that the angels are just in.
Yes.
And I think that's why reusing them outside of that narrative construct didn't overly work often.
They were like, oh, the angels were popular, let's do more angels.
Yeah.
Never quite knew what was good about that episode.
Blink that was popular as opposed to the angels being popular.
Yeah, just a fundamental misunderstanding. But I think finally someone has looked at it and gone, I know how to make the angels work.
Yeah, this fleshed them out in a way that's like, oh, I buy them as an actual villain.
And it's left them in a state now where we could see them again and I won't roll my eyes immediately because there's, you can do something with the angels now that's not just the same thing we've done every time they've popped up.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
And it ends with Yaz, Dan, and Jericho being stranded in 1901.
Yeah.
And the next episode starts with them in 1903?
04, I believe.
04. And it clearly seems to be they've been doing some Indiana Jonesing.
Yeah, they are breaking into a temple.
Talk about the ideas for a spin-off, right?
Oh, this had Big Finish spin-off written all over it.
Yeah, with her companions, Dan and Jericho.
Yes, the 3 years of adventures that they've been on in the early 1900s.
And it's worth noting that even the adventures we see here, there's enough time between them.
Yeah, for extra little bits.
They get attacked by an agent of the Grand Serpent, who's somehow now on Earth, and we also see him moving through time.
Yeah, they go to visit a hermit.
Who tells...
Tells them to fetch your dog.
Yep. I love that hermit.
He was great.
Yeah. Why do you not bring me a paper?
And they were like, yeah. Does seem a bit rude now that you mentioned it. He's like, well, I'm a hermit. It's fine. I'm joking.
Yeah. Yeah, he was great. And the dynamic between Yaz, Dan, and
Jericho.
And how they are her companions.
Absolutely. And
she is becoming...
He turned around me. He obviously has mellowed in those few years.
Yeah.
With Deb, and it's not that he was like closed-minded before because he was investigating Claire being psychic, right? Yeah. That was the whole thing. But it was more he came at it from a very this can't possibly be real. He was trying to disprove it and see what was wrong. I think you have
a notion that he knows how terrible the world is about to become.
Yes, so he's kind of enjoying it before it gets there.
Yeah. Because there's a sadness to him about that as well, right?
Yeah.
But you see how, and I think this happens to companions who spend too long with the Doctor. And then when we split them off from the Doctor, we see how, oh no, the Doctor's made another mini them.
Yes.
It's because why the Doctor is a good person. There is an element of legitimacy to the arguments of what actually comes later in this episode, and then what Davros made back in the day, how you turn people into
soldiers, essentially.
Yeah. And
they fight the Doctor's war even though they don't realize there's a war.
Yaz is very much being the Doctor in this situation. And you have that wonderful scene where she has the hologram from... I mean, because she's potentially watched that a lot.
Yeah. And again, this is something that Doctor has played with before, the idea of the companions doing that. I mean, the Sarah Jane Adventures being a whole spin-off was that, essentially. That.
Well, and then what other companions go on to, like Ace has a global charity, and...
Even the ending of, I think it was season 4 with towards the end of the end of Tennant stuff with all the Dalek stuff, and you got here's the Doctor Clone and Rose, and Torchwood's guests, and everyone kind of came in. You see the effect that you kind of turn them all into soldiers.
Or not. I'd say that the truth is actually something Tessiton says later on.
Tectoon.
Pardon, Tectoon, yeah.
Yeah.
says later on that the Doctor infects the world with hope, the universe with hope. Like,
Yes, and by when we say soldiers, we mean because that's how it's portrayed. You know, they take this
yeah,
active role in fighting the war, but the war in this scenario is like just generic bad evilness.
yeah, it's standing against the darkness, right? That's what
It's being a active good person as opposed to just being a passive good person.
yeah. And yeah, you see this adventure that Yazdan and Jericho go on.
Yeah,
Eventually,
it's a lot of fun. This globetrotting.
realizing that the way back is through Joshua Williamson's tunnels.
Yes, why wouldn't it be? Because
Yeah.
again, this is the episode where it went from we had one good episode with the angels, and I'm having fun anyway, to all these plot threads are starting to make sense.
Yes.
This is actually going somewhere. This has far more direction than I thought was possible for the first half of this season.
In this episode as well, you have Swarm and Village of Angels. You also have the story on that planet of Belle saving
Neil from the Inbetweeners.
Yeah, from the prison.
Yeah.
Because he thought it was a way off and she knew it wasn't. Because they're basically sacrificing people for their plan. You know, we find out much more beyond that. But
I was going to say, it's still pretty unclear as to what they were doing with all those people.
Sacrificing people to free time.
Yeah, but like how that exactly works?
Or maybe they needed to sack those people to tear a hole in space-time to get to Division.
Maybe. Like I say,
let's go with that.
Details are fuzzy, but I don't really care.
And then in Survivors of Flux, you get more Belle. She ends up meeting up with because she's on a Lupari vessel. Calvinista finds out like, hey, why is that not in the shield? And goes and
remote controls it.
Her
like,
ship to Earth. We also have the Grand Serpent moving through time, killing people, getting his way, trying to control UNIT until unfortunately he comes up against Kate Stewart, and it's like, no.
You do not get to do this to UNIT.
I'm Kate Stewart.
Yeah. No, this was a lot of fun seeing this.
Because
through the years of the formation of UNIT, going back to like stuff like the 50s, I think the first stuff was set.
And it's nice seeing the line stop with Kate because like her dad was a brig, now she's in charge. It's like, no.
Yeah. So that's like, how this works.
I'm not an idiot. You're an alien and you're doing something bad.
Yeah, she's smarter than most of them.
Yeah. And he fails to kill her twice. Which I kind of like the idea that his petty obsession in the last episode is really just because he doesn't like having failed to kill someone.
Quite possibly.
Yeah.
He's that sort of personality.
And I guess the other half of this episode is the Doctor in Division.
Which is fascinating stuff and probably some of the most divisive stuff of the season.
Where we learn that, yes, indeed, the Time Lords are still, bad. And
Time
create
Lords?
Division.
Bad? Yeah, who could have possibly seen that being coming?
Yeah, it's just interesting. The Time Lords are as bad as any other of a villainous species in
Always
Doctor
happen.
Who, right?
Yeah.
Not that species should be inherently villainous, but that's a different conversation.
And are they a species? Because they're technically just Gallifreyan, right? Are they a separate species, or are they more a class of Gallifreyans?
It's never been confirmed whether Gallifreyans are all Time Lords or not.
No, I'm pretty sure not all Gallifreyans are Time Lords. I'm like 99% sure on that.
I'm pretty sure that's still speculation. Some ancillary media may have fallen one way or the other.
I thought it was in the last couple of seasons when we've kind of been exploring this stuff. It was kind of
I'm pretty
almost
sure
confirmed.
Susan is, but we've never seen her regenerate.
Which I would say she's Gallifreyan, but not a Time Lord.
But I've also heard her in media being referred to as a Time Lady, so it's... Which she has a whole Big Finish article during the Time War called Susan's War.
Yep.
I saw someone say, like, oh man, we really don't have any media in the Time War, someone should explore it. And it's like, can I introduce you to Big Finish?
Yeah.
Who's done nothing but explore the Time War for the past...
I think that was again, just to revert to Doctor Who in general, The idea when New Who came back, and this was the status quo, was the concept of the Time War, and and how he was kind of like the last of his people now.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, this is fantastic. Like, it's such an easy way of wiping the slate clean for enough time that you can kind of play with this, but leaving it open to explore later.
And keeping everything in canon. Because I think that's
Yes.
one of the reasons that maybe the TV movie didn't succeed back in the day, was because it starts with Sylvester McCoy regenerating into 8, while having a Time War allows us just to start straight into 9 without any kind of...
There's no baggage
Yeah.
for anyone who was coming at it fresh, which was
It
quite
all
a lot of people.
happened, but between then and now, something bad happened. And here we are now.
That's all you need to know. Yeah.
Yeah.
That stuff was a stroke of genius, I
Yes.
think.
So there's an Ood here as well. I
Yeah,
love Ood.
'cause-
Ood are the best.
Well, oh man, you'd have had some cracking episodes.
Yeah. And the Doctor's mum is in charge of Division.
That's who this was revealed to be. Which
Also,
is
the Doctor's
okay. We're
kidnapper.
really playing with Chibnall's kind of his. He's putting his stamp on this as to this is still part of his stuff. This isn't just his
Yeah.
statement on Doctor Who in general. This is his ideas that he wants to be playing with for this season, which is fair.
I've seen some people speculate that she's also the White Guardian from Key to Time,
Possibly.
because he also wore like a straw hat
Okay. I can see it. I can see
and
it.
dressed in white, much like
Like she does, yeah.
Because why would Division stop using even Mind Wipe Doctor to their own ends at times if they could?
Yeah.
Right?
And again, that's where it comes to is ultimately the Doctor was just too good a person and kept questioning things,
Yeah. And
which definitely plays into the Doctor.
ultimately, like, we have this, and I think how you feel about unknown Doctors and Division existing throughout all of space and time is going to play on how much, whether you feel this season works or not, because it is still very much operating under those ideas.
Yep.
I was very unsure about the reveal at the end of last season, but intrigued, and I like how it's carried through.
I think at the time I was like that. I think it was one of those things that
Yeah,
it's
I
been
don't-
what, a year and a half, give or take, since that, where I'm like I've kind of just settled into it being the status quo, and that's a
Yeah.
thing I've accepted now, and I'm not annoyed about it. I'm like,
I mean, we find out that Division chameleon arched the Doctor.
yeah,
And there's a fob watch with all her previous lives in.
and who knows how many.
And
I do like the idea of we don't know when these lives take place.
I
Like,
think there's 2 clearly possible options.
well, the first one, of course, is just pre-Hartnell.
Pre-Hartnell, yes. Second is post-Troughton.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Because you don't in theory know what happened when the Time Lords were judging him and exiling him to Earth.
Potentially there was, that I'm going to say Fugitive Doctor, but I'm kind of including all the others in there. They were essentially failed third Doctors from the point of view of the timeline as we look at it,
Yes.
which I think is possibly the easiest way to explain why the TARDIS was still the police box.
It is. That is the strange thing. It sets but it does set a firm limit on that. Well, no, I guess it doesn't set a firm limit on how many there can be because time travel.
Yeah.
But there is the notion that when we did it, they returned the Doctor to baby form, and Hartnell did like age as a standard Gallifreyan. So he still is the first Doctor.
It's possible, yeah. Like I say, I think I lean more towards it being slipped in. I think post 2 is the most likely.
The thing is, this is playing with a concept from Classic Who as well, called the Mobius Doctors.
Mobius, yeah.
Yeah, where we see a bunch of, in theory, pre-Hartnell.
Which was always
Doctors.
the implication of that episode, was they were supposed to be pre-Hartnell.
Yes, but the idea was swiftly kind of forgotten.
Yeah.
But I think there is, and I see all these people saying like, oh, they don't like the Doctor being a chosen one or anything like that or anything special. They should just be a schmuck from Gallifrey who went on the run. But the thing is, Doctor Who stuff has played with the idea of the Doctor being more than for a long time. Yeah. There's the idea that they're one of the founders, that's like Rassilon Omega, and that the Doctor is actually the third founder.
Which is now kind of been replaced by Tecteun, right? As being the third founder.
Yes, I guess so.
With this stuff, I think Tecteun's kind of taken that spot now.
But the Doctor would still, in theory, be there alongside her.
Yeah.
Because they get regeneration from the Doctor.
That was what was revealed last season, right? With the Doctor, Gallifreyans are not Time Lords. Gallifreyans do not regenerate. The Doctor is this other thing that Tecteun found and stole. Well, stole's maybe a bit unfair, but copied the regenerative capabilities from, and used that to give those abilities to other Gallifreyans. Which is why, again, because the regenerations are not a natural phenomena. They never have, or I won't say never, but they haven't been for a long time.
Well,
the Time Lords have been able to give and take away regeneration cycles.
That you had 13, though, right?
Yes.
I say using the term canon in regards to Doctor Who is a mixed bag.
But even that was a imposed limit, because for a long time, they could give another. They've given the Master another cycle of regeneration in the past.
Because Smith had to figure out how to get more, because he was technically in his last life at that point.
Yeah,
because he somehow because David Tennant used
they counted Tennant as 2 with the one from the hand.
Yeah, I've always
gave
loved the
away
idea
that regeneration
the
energy.
Doctor's regenerations are so violent is because they just try the hardest not to.
Yeah.
Like, so it either happens in violent circumstances or they're trying to hold it back so much, right, it just becomes explosive.
It's why I actually really like going back to like Hartnell's regeneration into Tran is very
falls on the floor because it's old age.
Yeah, because that's so he's like, do you know what? I'm old. This body's old.
And then you have Romana regenerate by switching between several forms and having Tom Baker help her choose.
Yeah.
And the idea is that an actual peaceful, calm regeneration can be quite a choice. Mm-hmm. Like it doesn't have to be random. You've got time to pick and have a think about it. But the Doctor just never does because they're usually dying.
Yeah, it just puts it off so long. It's just like screw it.
Yeah, there's a lot of implications to the show as a whole here. Like, and whether future showrunners pick up on it or not, I think RTD is on record as saying he likes it, which doesn't surprise me because RTD is a fan of the Wilderness Years.
It was instrumental in some of those.
And the Virgin books and stuff, and then the BBC novels that come after play heavily with this kind of stuff.
Yeah. I'm not at all surprised that he likes
it. Who created the Grand Time War, which I imagine is kind of meant to be the Time War in a certain way that some of those will lead into anyway, just a slightly more cleaned up version of it.
Yeah. And
I mean, I know there's fans out there who think if the Time War was this large thing, that the Time War that was happening at the end of some of those books, like the War in Heaven and stuff, I've not read them myself. I just know rough ideas that came from them.
Yeah,
it's just one of the first kind of salvos and first batches of the Time War. And
Doctor Who fans will do anything to try and fit everything and anything into canon as much as they possibly can.
Yeah, the each thing is just to go with Doctor Who doesn't have a canon. It's all fine.
It does mostly, but there's a couple of timelines.
Or it just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, because our core concept is an alien who travels in time and space, there's time for it all to fit in.
Which is actually going to lead really nicely to some stuff that we'll discuss.
You just have to accept that the Doctor lies about their age.
A lot.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that rule 1? The Doctor lies.
Yes. And also, these days, I guess, the Doctor doesn't even know. Like...
I'd buy that, though, especially as they get really old anyway. Even before they forget, it's like, you get old.
Yeah.
I barely remember how old I am, and I'm 27. If someone asks me how old I am, I have to stop and think about it and work it out most of the time. I only did that quick then because I knew what I was going to say, and I worked it out in my head beforehand.
I've stalled. Like, my mind keeps going, I'm 30. No, I'm 31 now. But my mind keeps saying, no, you're 30.
I just don't know. Like people at work will go, "How old are you?" I'm like, "Just give me a second."
See, I think it's
I
my
like
brain trying to keep me safe from the knowledge that
you're
I'm
getting
creeping
old.
through my 30s now.
Well, I think I'm not quite there yet, thankfully. But also the idea of just don't think about it. Your brain's like you
Yeah,
don't need that active knowledge at all times.
yeah.
We'll let you access it when you really need it.
And then we finally have the Vanquishers, which somehow, despite all odds, managed to bring all these planes into land.
In a relatively safe fashion.
Yes, actually.
Like it's
I
not like a big bombastic, crazy
I
twists and
get
turns
people who've
ending.
watched it and gone, I'm kind of disappointed.
I think it's disappointing if you were expecting
Yeah, I
a lot of
wasn't.
crazy stuff.
I think people were expecting answers to the whole Doctor mystery. I
Oh,
just
yeah.
don't think that's coming.
No, I don't think it was ever going to come.
I don't think it should. I think it's
at least
better
not
off.
all in one go.
Yeah, it's
Leave it
better
in
off
drips and drabs.
being a mystery.
With the exception of a theory I have, which I will get to shortly.
So yeah, in this episode, Centaurans have invaded Earth. Grand Serpent has helped them.
For reasons.
Yaz and Dan get back to time. Vinder has met up with Dan's friend in The Prisoner, and they're trying to escape. We get
She's very good in there, apparently.
yeah, we're getting a multi-Doctor story, kind of, and
Yeah,
that in this episode was a stroke of genius, and how the pacing works.
it meant you always had the Doctor in pretty much every plot line.
Yeah,
It gave you a good connective tissue to cut away to different things at any point. And
was-
also just made it fun.
it's why the episode works.
Yeah.
It's a stroke of genius of having a split across 3 times that allows it all to just function without feeling all over the place.
It doesn't feel like all these disjointed threads. It feels like, no, we're following the Doctor at basically all times.
Claire's psychic powers help to work.
Yeah, her and Jericho go undercover and save the day. Mostly.
Yeah, it's a good final.
And do you know what I like as well? So poor Eustachius Jericho dies,
Yes,
and I like this, and not that I'm like I wanted him to die
He gets
because
a
I think he
good
was great and
ending,
he grew
though.
on me, and I'm sad that he died. There was emotion to it, which
he
but I'm
dies
glad that he died.
helps Claire escape, and then the Centaurans are coming, and
Yeah.
the Flux is coming, and he doesn't get off in time.
But I like because there was a long time in Doctor Who where it was like no one dies,
Yeah,
and I got bored of it because it used to be, even in New Who, in Eccleston's, what was it? Just this once, no one dies.
I think it's Tennant's motto, isn't it?
What, that no one dies?
Yeah, because it's amplified in Waters of Mars.
I think that's where it gets to it, but I think before that he tries, but he accepts that people die.
I don't think it does.
But
I
he
think
tries.
we get more people dying in Smith and
Oh, I don't think so.
no.
No.
I don't know.
I think Smith.
I always
'cause-
feel the No One Dies feels very much of the RTD era to me, but
No, but I think no. This is the difference. I think in the RTD era, he has that mindset of no one dies and tries to save people, but usually doesn't succeed. Usually, some people die anyway.
maybe it's not an overwhelming theme of this Moffat era, but maybe just no one dies in the Moffat era.
Yeah, and I can tell you why. Is because in terms of like the themes, the feelings of the Doctors,
Yeah,
Matt Smith is kind of like a fairy tale, right? He's the old man being the child, right?
Yeah,
It's got that very fairy tale feeling to it,
he's probably my favourite Doctor, I think. But
which is fine. He's not mine, but that's okay. But that's the idea that that feeling I get. He's that fairy tale. It's why there's an episode early in
how he's
Capaldi's
introduced
run.
to Amy, right? That's how it.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
even to the point where there's an episode early in
He's Amy
Capaldi's
Pond's
stuff.
fairy godfather.
the-
That's who the Doctor is.
Yeah, but do you remember I think it's the Robin Hood episode.
So if not, Clara dies a lot before she.
That's kind of her thing. But that was different because it wasn't really
Yeah.
dying. I mean, it was, but it was more this, like, that was the whole point. But generally speaking, people don't die as much.
A lot of people
in-
die in Capaldi's last.
Yes, But in a lot of Moffat stuff, I would say they don't. But that's okay.
Yeah.
But I'm glad here that now we're back to, no, sometimes the good people die.
Yes, and it's his. You gave me an adventure of a lifetime.
Yeah.
Like it's.
The only thing missing was like a final message to Yaz, I think.
Yeah, I think that is one thing that's missing. You don't see Yaz and Dan, who lived with him for years at this point, really react to it.
I think it really is because, like, oh, you gave me the adventure. Technically, yes, the Doctor kickstarted all this and is kind of behind him, but in many ways, Yaz was his Doctor.
Yeah, and that would be my biggest criticism of this episode. There isn't the proper emotional closure to Yaz, Dan, and Jericho.
Yeah.
That's one thing. That's the one place I don't think the plane comes into to land.
Yes,
it's a rough landing because I do like Jericho's end.
Yes, it's just missing something, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's mostly good. It's just, I feel like they just couldn't find a way to write it and have everyone in the right space at the right time so you could have that.
The Doctor does a thing and commits 3 genocides before breakfast.
Yep. Yep. I mean, to be fair, the Sontarans were going to commit 2 anyway.
She just helped them.
She just let them. Because the Sontaran.
I've seen people point out it's
point,
battle fleets. It might not be genocide. And the Daleks are showing up in.
But let's say hypothetically genocide.
And I will put on record now: genocide is not something to be taken lightly, as we are kind of doing.
But
now.
It is Doctor Who.
Real world genocide is obviously horrific.
Yes, but the Sontaran plan, because the Lupari ships can be enough of a shield.
The Sontarans have also killed all the Lupari.
They've killed all the Lupari except Carvanista, who we'll get to in a minute. Because I think that's one of the probably the strongest part of this episode.
Yes.
But all their ships, they're kind of enough to mostly stop the Flux. Not entirely, but like most of it. And so they're going to be, we've got a big shield wall. Come on, Daleks and Cybermen, come and give us a hand. We'll face this head on. And then it's shield wall. Just move around us and let it wipe out the Daleks and Cybermen.
Yeah.
And then the Doctor's like, nah, I'll just go behind you and you can all go.
Yeah.
Because sure.
Sontarans loving chocolate was quite fun as well.
Yes. Yeah. That being the weakness to get them.
The whole thing, much like the first episode, the whole thing just runs at like breakneck speed.
Yeah. There's a lot in this.
If the first episode went at breakneck speed setting up a million different things, this one runs at breakneck speed resolving them. The plan is that the Swarm and Azure are going to use the Flux to destroy the universe until it gets to the planet Time, destroying it and freeing time from the bounds of space.
Yeah.
Because it turns out time is sentient.
Because of course it is.
And time punishes Swarm and Azure, although they seem kind of happy with it.
Yeah.
Azure's like, Ascension.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's very, religious cult overtones of just whatever the god wants.
And time promises to get the Doctor back. And I do like this notion that time is antagonistic towards the Doctor.
Yeah. And this leads me to one of my theories, which I don't think they've got the balls to do it. But what if the Doctor does die? Because that's the threat here.
We've had this discussion last week.
We did, and I was like, I don't know. But in this scene...
no regenerations this time.
Yeah.
And I think if you were ever going to kill off the Doctor, now is the time to do it.
Right, and especially with the behind-the-scenes stuff, the production companies changing over to Bad Wolf coming in, they're taking charge. They have creative control as well as just financing. So it is someone different objectively someone different from who is in control of this final episode is taking over next after. So they can kind of do what they want. I do have to wonder. Do we kill the Doctor and do we play with? We got all these lost lives in the Fob Watch to explore.
The problem is, it puts a definitive end to the Doctor, which I don't think we want to do.
It puts a definitive end to the Doctor, but as long as they never tell us how many lives are in that Fob Watch, There is no definitive limit to how long
True,
it can
but
go.
there's the notion that we're never seeing the new adventures of the Doctor. I think it's down to this.
Yeah.
It's almost like because they are new adventures. They will be new adventures to us, but I think it's that psychological moment of, as a viewer, you're aware whatever you're watching is a prequel, kind of like the Doctor's over. What's a reason to carry on watching? The story's done. These are just weird things that fit in between other stuff.
Yeah.
And even though it won't necessarily be that, it's hard to fight that thought.
It is. That's just why I don't think they will do it.
No, I don't think they'll do it either. But if
But
you
I
were,
would kind of love it.
I think if it was something you were going to do, this is when to do it.
It is. This is your moment. You've set up your threat to do it to the Doctor with time, which is about as big a threat as you can get in a time travel show.
If we get an announcement before that centenary special that Joe Martin is the next Doctor, that may be a heavy inclination that they are going to do it.
They might, yeah. I don't even know if I'd need it to be her as the next Doctor, though. Like,
no, you wouldn't necessarily. But I meant if we do get some kind of announcement of that I think would lean towards this idea a bit more.
And that'll be the question: is when do they announce it? Do they announce it before? See,
I don't think
I would say
I don't even the special shot.
Yeah.
So we're not going to see the regeneration.
I don't know. I don't know. They could just do a little pickup if they wanted to.
Yeah, but we haven't cast yet.
Not as far as we're aware of.
This stuff you.
Or if they have, they haven't announced it, and they're telling us they haven't cast. Which
yeah.
I mean, that is the two rules of Doctor Who. Isn't it? Rule number 1: the Doctor lies. Rule number 2: the showrunner lies.
Yeah, but I honestly I don't know what we're gonna do. I'm intrigued.
I am as well,
and I'm so happy we're getting a feature-length final to this era as well.
I'm really intrigued because we know that's coming in the autumn of next year.
Yeah.
It'll probably be about September, maybe October. I don't know exactly when, but it'll probably be around then. We know we got one New Year's Day, and there's one more that's going to go somewhere in the middle of that. Whether or not they land for Easter again like they did that year, I don't know. But
back to the episode.
Yeah.
Calvinista.
Oh man.
The anger he has at the Doctor in that.
Because he has been abandoned by the Doctor.
The Doctor is wrong.
Kind of
I think the Doctor is wrong with her guess.
Which guess?
You know, he says there's effectively a bomb in my brain.
Yeah.
And
he's been suicide squadded.
And she's like, Division did that. I think the Doctor did that.
It's a little reminiscent of kind of like Donna's ending.
Yeah.
Of the idea of she can't ever remember. You know, she can't learn it. Yeah. Otherwise, obviously it's a different reason where, you know, for her, if she remembers that, do it. But I do wonder if it's an idea of the Doctor maybe had an inkling of what the Division were going to do to them and was like, I need to, you know, kind of make sure you don't tell me anything afterwards.
Yeah.
Like you can't give me these memories back, sort of thing, straight away. She doesn't want to know.
Do you think Joe Martin was the last Division Doctor then? As in the last of the Lost Doctors?
Possibly, yeah. But I'm not 100% sure on that either.
I guess the idea is that it could be anything they want it to be, right? That's...
Yeah, like, if they tell me she's the last one, great, cool, she's the last one. If they tell me she's the first one, great, cool, she's the first one.
It's Schrodinger's
somewhere in the
Doctor.
middle. Yeah, I'm not bothered what they do with that timeline. In all honesty, it's like, do whatever you want.
Then one last thing I want to talk about this episode before moving on to our overall thoughts.
Still Carnavista.
Oh yeah.
The moment where he learns that the Sontarans have committed genocide, and he is the last of his people.
Yeah.
And just the acting in that suit, where he just slumps, he just drops, like, you know, entire demeanor just shifts immediately to being you know, angry at the Doctor and frustrated with the Doctor for, you know, all this stuff, to just misery, right?
And arguably, there's no one in the world who knows how that feels quite like.
Yeah.
The person in front of him. Like,
and whether or not he knows that is a different question. But yeah, Oh man! And then all the rest of the episode just with him just being angry and
Yeah.
desperate and and grieving, obviously, the whole time is just so good, and in a very dark, emotional way, obviously, but like
Yes.
good and like well written.
Yeah. It's good in the terms of
It succeeds in what it's trying
yeah.
to do in making you care.
Yeah.
Yeah, not
And
good that these were all wiped out, obviously.
and then you have one thing I'm glad they didn't do that a lot of people were theorizing that the Doctor was the kid of.
I was guilty of theorizing this myself.
I was as well, but I'm glad they didn't do it.
I'm very glad. I mean, at least not yet.
But you got those three going off on adventures together, haven't you? Calvinista, Bell,
Yep.
and Vinder.
Spin off in the waiting.
Yep.
Big finish. Like, just rub it there.
They don't have the rights yet, but they will do eventually.
There was a thing that the Big Finish Twitter account, whoever runs their social media, is great for the record. I think they have a great presence. But they were going, we love every time a new episode of Doctor Who airs because we just get 100 requests every season of like, oh, here's all the things you should do.
Because I think
And it's just like easy money.
Currently, they have the rights up to the end of Capaldi.
That makes sense.
I don't think they ever get the rights to current Who.
No, in case they want to, in case it steps on the toes of stuff, which is fair.
But then when an era ends, it potentially slips into their.
I think because as a rule, Big Finish tends to be considered relatively canon by most fans in a way that a lot of the other media isn't.
I mean, they have a because for 20 years it was Doctor Who.
Yeah.
In a way that there was the books as well, but the books were clearly kind of like the books got the Virgin Adventures got ended and the BBC books took over and were different. So there was
It was clearly very different timelines.
Yes, while.
Whereas Big Finish managed to have adventures with all these various Doctors and then link 8 through to New Who.
Yeah.
Quite naturally, which lended its authenticity, essentially.
And they have a license to 2025.
I'm sure it'll go further. I'm sure it will be renewed.
That would be my one. I had the horrifying thought the other day. I can't see any logical reason why anyone in their right mind would end Big Finish's Doctor Who license. However, with more bigger players involved.
Oh, if it wasn't the people who... Obviously, it changed a little bit now that Sony money's involved. But generally speaking, the people at Bad Wolf care about Big Finish stuff.
Yeah, if I was... if I was BBC... Whatever the ownership arm of BBC is, as opposed to the public broadcasting company, the private arm, I guess, I would just be like, no, you're not dictating this. Big Finish states.
Well,
it's the longest running science fiction audio series of all time. Of a monthly range.
That doesn't surprise me. But because Bad Wolf have creative control over the show.
Yes.
I do not think they have control over licensing deals.
No, and
that will remain with the BBC.
And I think the Shimon area will get licensed to Big Finish, but we won't be able to touch the Bad Wolf stuff until it's all said and done.
Which again is fair.
Did you know, speaking of licensing deals, Character Toys has the license to Doctor Who action figures?
Sure.
Apparently, the majority of what they make is exclusive to B&M.
Really?
Yes.
B&M, of all places.
Which, if you ever want to have a weirdly fun time, go toy shopping in B&M.
I never have.
Go into B&M and go down the toy aisles and be like, who? Because again, you gotta think the toy aisle in B&M is for kids and impulse purchases, right?
Yeah.
And you look at it all and they have Fortnite toys and things like that, but it's like, who's buying Mezco replica original series Star Trek figures? Who's buying a Mezco TOS Khan?
What do they have in there?
Quite frequently, yes.
Wow.
And then the exclusive like Doctor figures don't tend to be current stuff. It's like, oh, here's a 2-pack of classic series Dalek. Here's William Hartnell and the Sensorites.
What?
And
Why?
that is a box that I saw in there today. William Hartnell and the Sensorites. I wasn't making that up. That was a genuine.
That was like an actual example.
Yes, and then here's a first Doctor companion, and I think the creatures from the Key to Marinus.
Why?
I mean, cool that these things are being made. It just seems.
Why are you selling them there?
Apparently, Americans who like to collect Doctor Who toys are really annoyed by it.
Yeah, I can see why.
Because it's not like it's a large exclusive to a larger company in the UK that they could easily potentially import from. It's an English discount
That's the sort of thing
store.
where you need to know someone who can buy it and ship it for you.
Yeah.
That's essentially at that level.
I think they eventually got into Amazon and places like that anyway.
Yeah, but I bet they're marked up to shit.
To be fair, for 20 quid in B&M.
Yeah, but that's for what they are, not ridiculous.
Well, that's the point. Who's walking into B&M and impulse buying a £20 Doctor Who box set of William Hartnell and 2 Sensorites?
Well, it is coming up to Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, if someone got me that for Christmas, I would be very happy. So.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, I guess
The
me. I'm the
Secret
person
Santa.
who walks into B&M and buys a 2-pack of...
I don't think I have a B&M near me anymore. The one that I did have shut down, but I need to take a bus ride and find one.
All the random, like, Dalek box sets they put together of different era Daleks. Like, I was very hard-pressed to not walk out with a gold Dalek and a black Dalek earlier. Like, it took a lot of willpower to put it back on the shelf and leave.
Ooh. I'm just looking where the nearest one to me is now, and it's not that far away from Paige's parents.
They're everywhere. I mean, my town has 2.
We've got a few. There used to be one closer to me, but it shut down.
The town next door, to the point where the green belt is getting smaller and smaller, that we're kind of basically functionally one town, also has 2. So there's literally 4 B&Ms within like a 10-minute drive at max from me.
Yeah, there's 2 over by Paige's parents for some reason.
B&Ms are fascinating because also full of Australian cabras.
I've not been in a B&M in far too long. There used to be one on my street.
Do you remember Dream?
How could I forget?
Famously
They were the
discontinued
best.
years ago. Go buy one from B&M.
I mean, I would, but they're no good to me anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah,
But-
just Dream bars on the shelf. We bought a box of cream eggs earlier.
At this time of year.
At this time of year, yeah, right. I'm pretty sure they're not UK cream eggs.
If you just waited another month, you can buy cream eggs.
True, but it like flipping the box open, it's like, yeah, I think these are imported.
Because I'm pretty sure cream eggs come out in January now.
They do, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like the sweets and the chocolate that is in B&M is like, it's just weird things that you like. And you know, usually like you get a lot of American stuff, and there is like American cereal and things.
Yeah.
But it's stuff that isn't American because you're used to seeing American stuff. It's like, it is. It's just like, okay, this is imported Irish Cadbury's, imported Australian Cadbury's. And it's not even the cheapest. Like a bar of Dream is £2 for like.
Yeah, but
it's,
imported stuff are always
and
like
they've
that.
got
aren't
this weird mix of dairy milk with Dream on top, as well.
they? Oh, I know the one.
Yeah, like,
I've seen that.
Yeah, but it's the food aisles and the toy aisles are very interesting in B&M. Like, they just kind of baffle the mind slightly of why.
It's fascinating.
But yeah, there you've got a little. Anyone watching not from the UK, you've got a hint of another UK institution as well as Doctor Who here.
Yeah, which is, let's be honest, our biggest and best cultural export of all time.
Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's not B&M, is it?
No. B&M is the successor to Home and Bargains, though. B&M took the baton Home and Bargain had and ran further with it to levels of weirdness.
Yeah.
Like, occasionally you can go into a B&M and walk out with, like, a big Spider-Man art print. Like, it's just...
Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think Flux overall, for me,
Yeah, Flux
big
was
success.
very good. I did
Bizarre mess for 2/3 of it. Shockingly safe landing.
before
made a lot of sense.
Before we conclude, there was one more bit of the last episode I want to talk about.
Oh,
Final
okay.
scene between the Yaz and the Doctor.
Yeah, okay. Because you'd said something to
There's
me
a lot of
after
there's a lot
episode
of
5.
Yaz Doctor shippers out there, and I felt like they've got a point for a while now.
I hadn't seen any of this stuff.
I thought
really...
there's been underling since last season.
You may be right. I didn't pick up on it, but that doesn't mean it's not there.
But that final scene,
yeah,
if there was subtext there, that made it texted, I think.
I would say it's technically still subtext enough that people will argue that it's nothing.
It is,
but because you'd mentioned it to me, and I was like, oh, do you know what? Thinking about the way she was looking at the hologram a lot in episode 5, it's like, yeah, I could see an argument for it. And then there was this scene, and the way it was shot, the close-ups, the faces, the angle.
Is the interrupted kiss?
It was the interrupted kiss scene.
Yeah,
like that's what this scene was. There was there's no doubt as to they're kind of just being, cutesy. I was like,
that's weird.
That's what this scene was.
I'm famously on record as saying I don't dig Doctor romances, but it kind of this works for me more than most.
Yeah, I've never had a problem with Doctor romances anyway, so.
I'll be honest. I think maybe I don't have a problem with Doctor romances. I just don't like Rose Tyler. Maybe that is my issue.
You're not alone in that. I do not quite have the disdain that you do. I think Rose is a bit bland, but I don't dislike her.
I think what I dislike is the fact that she's like her and Mickey are still a couple for predominantly most of that, and it's just it comes across as I don't know. I don't like it.
She was the prototype for Amy and Rory in a lot of ways.
Apart from it works with Amy.
That's why I say she was the prototype. She was the trial run.
And to be fair, I have no problem with a romance in the TV movie either. For the first time the Doctor kisses someone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I'm down for this.
Yeah, maybe I'm fine with Doctor. Yeah, I think I'm fine with Doctor Who romances. I just don't like.
I think I don't know if
that is not. I think Billy Piper is great as Rose. I just don't like the writing of Rose a lot of the time. I actually love Rose in Series 1. It's Series 2 Rose I'm not keen on.
That's fair.
And I love the moment. The moment is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm down for Yaz and Doctor, and it was pretty clear. Like I said, I wasn't 100% convinced, mainly because I hadn't been looking for it.
Yeah.
Like I said, I hadn't. But I think even if I hadn't been looking for it, I'd have seen this one, because this was not subtle. There was no subtlety to this anymore. See, this was the interrupted kiss scene. That's what this was, without any pretense that it wasn't.
In previous seasons, it's the way Yaz reacts when the Doctor returns in the last Christmas special. Like she's a lot angrier than Ryan. And
I should say I haven't actually watched that Christmas special. Oh. It's the only episode of New Who I haven't watched yet. And I know, and I meant to watch it before I started watching Flux. Then I just watched Flux instead.
There's a level of anger she has at being abandoned that the other two don't. That also felt that way, kind of leaning.
Okay.
And I didn't necessarily think it was ever going to be reciprocated. I always thought it was going to be potentially Yaz's romantically into the Doctor, but the Doctor's as oblivious as ever. But this felt reciprocated at the end of
It did, because the Doctor was apologizing for leaving her, and it was like I've shut you out a bit too much, and that's not right. I should do better.
And then Dan interrupted, wondering where his bedroom was.
Yeah.
And God, I want to see more TARDIS. Like, that's one thing. New Who's biggest crime.
Yeah.
It made the TARDIS weird. Do you want to know what I would love? You've seen the TV movie, right?
Yeah.
Like the TARDIS in the TV movie. Like, I would live in there quite happily.
I don't mind the TARDIS being weird. I just want to see more of it.
Yeah, I don't mind the TARDIS being weird, but I love the studied library style of that TV movie TARDIS. Like,
hey, well, maybe next Doctor.
I love.
There's always a new TARDIS
just there with a book, like sitting on his chairs with consoles next to him. And
I think, for me, TARDISes are a little bit over designed at this point. I like the simple ones.
They are, yes, and I think rather than going with what in theory money would allow us to see more of a TARDIS, right? We just took the old sparse console rooms and added a lot of things to it.
Yeah.
It's like,
But we should mention, obviously, Doctor has the fob watch. Technically, I got opened, but she didn't get the memories.
yeah, so she locks it away in the TARDIS and asks her never to let her have it unless she really, really wants it.
Which means it's being opened at some point.
Yeah, I'm not. It'd be interesting if he's put it there as just a gift for whoever wants it down the line.
That's it. I'm not convinced it'll be in these next 3 episodes.
No.
I think it's more just a look. If in case of emergency, break glass.
Yeah, if someone wants to play with this in the future, go for it.
Have at it.
But
it's something I like about a lot of like comic book writers have 2 styles of runs where there's I'm going to play with the toys and I'm going to put everything back in the box exactly where I found it.
And I'm going to create toys.
Yeah. Or you've got I'm going to go wild. I'm going to leave you just with a challenge and do what you want.
Yeah.
I think stuff like Daredevil did this for a long time when you had like Bendis into Brubaker, into Diggle and Nocenti, all those things. Like it was just a series of baton passing and going, go on then, what you got? And that's kind of what this feels like, where it's like go on then, if you're brave enough.
Yeah.
Felt like almost like a challenge.
But yeah, in retrospect, I loved every minute of this series.
Yeah.
Like it might not be the best Doctor Who. It might not be.
But it has me excited for Doctor Who in a way I haven't been in quite a while.
I haven't listened to Big Finish audios in years. I've not been wanting to devour ancillary media in years. Doctor Who, at least since about halfway through the Capaldi run, Doctor Who's just been something I watch because I watch Doctor Who. And I enjoy it because I enjoy Doctor Who. But I've not been this obsessed with Doctor Who in a while.
I said that last New Year's episode is the first episode of New Who I've not I will watch probably in the next week or two, but it's been the first episode I've not watched within a week or two of it coming out since 2005.
Well, Matt intends to binge it because he's not seen that special either, and I kept saying like, you should watch Flux. He's like, I'm not caught up, and I'm like, you've got 1 episode to watch before you're caught up. Just catch up and watch it.
I was gonna, and then I was like, it's a Christmas, New Year's special these days. They're fluff. I'll be able to skip it. It won't matter. I know the 2 of them left, and that'll be enough.
There's a nice emotional closure to their leaving.
Yeah, I'll jump back and watch it.
But I think I've been ranting and raving about it so much that he's finally decided he's gonna watch it. He was gonna see if he can catch up in time to record this with us,
but clearly not.
Well, I think if you hadn't broken your arm, he probably would have.
Because we'd have probably had a few more. Yeah. If I was working what I was scheduled to, my day off wouldn't have been till Friday.
No, but because I could record tonight, I figured we may as well record while it's so fresh in our minds.
And
by God, was it good?
Yeah, and like I said, it's left me.
Oh,
I think.
Also, I guess they strand the Grand Serpent on an asteroid.
Yeah,
so he's another toy to be played with later.
Yeah, he'll come back, which is fine. I think it was fun. Had a good presence. But yeah, no, I've been getting into Big Finish stuff before this, but only recently because, like I said, I've got a coworker at work who obsessively does there are 2 things he will talk about in general as a rule, like Doctor Who and Football Manager. Those are his 2 obsessions. So I talked to him a lot about Doctor Who. So I've been in the mood even before Flux, but Flux has like kind of catapulted it up to, no, I'm going to devour everything right now. So I'm working through all the monthly range right now, Big Finish, which, yeah, there's some good stuff. Don't get me wrong, not all of it's great, because how can it be? It was monthly audio dramas for years. There's going to be some stuff in there that's not great.
Yeah.
But on the whole, it's well made. It's made.
And while there might be stuff that isn't necessarily great, their consistency over 20, 30 odd years is...
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I think they've raised the form.
Of like audio dramas?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listening to some of these early ones now, And having listened to, say, the Eighth Doctor Adventures with Lucy Miller years ago, like, they're significantly more complex in regards to sound effects and things like that than these ones are. And they were in 2008 to 2011-ish time period. So I don't think what some of the more modern ones are like as well.
Yeah, and this, I think the most modern thing I've listened to, I don't remember which way around they were. It was either the first chunk of 10th Doctor stuff or the first War Doctor stuff. I've listened to both of those. I don't know which one came first.
I listened to Out of Time 1 the other day.
Which one was that?
It's a series of seemingly sporadic one-offs we're doing with Tennant. This was Tennant and Tom Baker.
Oh yes, okay.
They've done a Tennant and Davison one, and I know there's a Tennant and Baker one in the works as well.
Yeah, no, but they've got so much stuff that there is something for every Doctor Who fan.
Yeah,
like regardless of what stuff from Doctor Who
and I think
like.
There's enough variety to potentially not burn yourself out as well. Say you're getting a bit tired of something, there's something else. Like,
yeah, you've got you've got just the monthly range, which is mostly just here are mostly 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th
Worth
Doctors.
noting, the monthly range is finished now.
I think they've started back up.
No, it's over.
Did they not start back up again recently?
No, they ended it in March this year.
I'm sure there's
275 was the last one.
Oh, you might be right. Yeah, I think there was thought of them start back up at some point, but
they're focusing on box sets going forward, even for those Doctors.
Yeah,
like I know we've got some Colin Baker.
I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of open it back up at some point just to hit to 300.
I imagine they realise they're making a lot more money on box sets than they were on the monthly range now.
Maybe.
And that they could put more variety into the box sets because it wasn't 1 2-hour story. It could be 4 1-hour stories or 3 1-hour stories.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
It allows you to modernise for classic Doctors to stand next to your 9th Doctor box sets and your 10th Doctor box sets. And they've always done the box set for the 4th Doctor. They've always done that style of story for the 4th Doctor because he joined
significantly later.
Around the same time as Tennant, to be fair. Not that much before Tennant.
Yeah, which was significantly later.
Yeah, Baker joined, I think, a couple of years before they got the New Who licence.
Yeah, they're on season 11's coming up next year, I think. So there's 10 seasons of 4th Doctor stuff, I think.
And I wouldn't mind listening to some of the first Doctor adventures with Fingy as the first Doctor.
Who's they got playing the first Doctor?
In the more recent, obviously, there's lots of examples of sound-alikes throughout the years, but in
the recent,
stuff, they've got plays him in both the show about the making of Doctor Who and in the Twice Upon a Christmas.
Oh, David Bradley.
Yeah.
David Bradley. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a series of First Doctor adventures with David Bradley as.
And he's very good at that. So,
there's a variety of Third Doctor stuff with a sound alike for Pertwee as well.
Yeah. I know there's some Second Doctor stuff as well.
Yeah.
It's very impressive.
Then there's standalone units. There's a whole bunch of Kate Stewart unit stories.
Yeah,
They're just
Torchwood
starting up
stuff.
a new series for her, Torchwood stuff. The Paternoster Gang have got a couple.
Rory's got a couple as a Centurion.
Yeah. There's a whole load of Daria River songs because apparently she had so much fun doing the first one that she just and that seems to be the resounding opinion of a lot of people who maybe get coaxed into it a little bit.
I'm sure they pay reasonably well. Again, as a rule, audio rates are significantly lower than film rates, which is why you can get a lot of in terms of to other media. It's why you can get a lot of guests on animation.
The rates for paying at are one of the reasons because let's be upfront, Big Finish isn't cheap.
No.
Outside of older stuff that they've heavily discounted and having the first
but they
50
do
up on
regularly put good stuff on sale.
Yeah.
And even newer stuff, and it's still at reasonable sales.
And if you are willing to bulk buy, you will get a bit of a discount.
Yeah.
Like, for example, if you say you want to do listen to all the current Ninth Doctor stuff, that the final box set is due out, of season 1 is due out in February. You effectively save the value of a box set if you buy the lot than if you bought each one individually.
Yeah, but if you know you're going to listen to those, then it's worth it. I do think it is worth the money. Again, assuming you have Spotify or Apple Music, I'm pretty sure you can probably listen to them for free on Spotify anyway, on their free version. I don't know because I haven't had free Spotify in years at this point.
The current 8th Doctor story has been running since like 2011, I think.
Yeah, it's been
Dark
going
Eyes box set, and they ran the Time War stuff alongside it, which is a separate thing.
Yeah, like I said, you got War Doctor stuff in there,
and now they've just started the War Doctor Begins, where they're getting a sound alike to play a young Hurt.
Yeah, and
I mean, in regards to
I'm just looking at what's on Spotify now. They've got some of the first Tennant stuff on there.
They do.
There's some of it. There's something on there with Tennant. Destiny of the Doctor.
No, that's a series of audiobooks they released for.
Oh, is that the audiobooks?
There's one for each Doctor that they released for the 50th anniversary.
Oh, is that those ones?
They're not full cast dramas.
Ah, right. Okay. There's still like
one of those like hybrid style audiobooks.
The Dune audiobook.
They've got the first season of the 4th Doctor Adventures on there.
Yeah.
The Unit Dominion box set is, and then the first 50 monthly range. I think because the way they're listed is weird. Like you won't find it under Doctor Who, but if you search Jago and Lightfoot, you'll find most of Jago and Lightfoot on there.
That's bizarre.
Because that's his own artist. And then some of the other spin-offs are on there as well, under their own.
Yeah. No, like I said, there's definitely enough.
Yeah.
To get an idea of what's on there, if anyone that's interested.
And we're only in like a couple of weeks hiatus in Doctor Who now, but there'll be larger gaps between the two specials we've got coming next year. So if you're hammering for some Doctor Who, check out Big Finish. I just picked up a book that I'm enjoying. There seems to have been
I've got a stack of books back here. Like, I'll just grab. What have I got here? These are some older ones. I've got Stone Rose. That's a Tennant Rose book.
They're the Works paperback reprints that only ever got sold in the Works generally.
Are they? I have had these for God knows how long.
Because all those books were released in these cool little printed on cover hardcovers. All the BBC range for a while was done like that. The paperbacks ended up in budget stores.
Yeah, I've got well, there's 3 of them here, but I've got more over there. There's in my hands here. I have a Tennant Rose and then 2 Nine and Rose books.
Which Nine and Rose books?
Monsters Inside and The Clockwise Man.
The Clockwise Man, I read as when it came out back in 2005. Like, I remember really enjoying it.
I have probably had these most of that time, and I probably read some of these back then. I just don't remember it.
I just picked up a 13th Doctor book called the Doctor of Oz.
Okay, sounds cool.
Because they've released 2 books this year that are Doctor Who in literature. Like, there's a Tennant in Camelot.
I need it.
And there's a 13 in Oz. They're like a 5 on Amazon at the moment.
Yeah, I'll probably grab those.
And
I'm just looking at what else they've got on the book. They've got like some 4th Doctor Adventures stuff on here on Spotify. The first season of
the 4th Doctor Adventures is on there.
They've got some unit stuff on here. Like I said, even if you just don't want to, work through.
The Unit Dominion box set is on there, which is a 7th Doctor story, and introduces one of Big Finish's main, more modern masters. The one played by, we're talking about Neil from In the Betweeners being in Doctor Who.
Yeah.
It's the master that's played by Neil's dad.
Oh. Cool.
Yeah.
Was that him in the Angels episode as well? He was playing like the priest or something? Sort of the doctor? No, what was it? He was playing someone. There was a really minor role in The Village in the 60s. He was there for like less than a full scene. I was like, I swear I recognise him. Was it him?
I can't remember.
No. Like Liza, it was like a
Yeah.
nothing role.
But yeah, I think we both remember that Doctor Who is pretty amazing, right?
Yeah. It's nice to be reminded of that
Yeah.
occasionally.
And I don't know how this era is going to be remembered.
I'm gonna give it 5 years and people will love it.
Yeah. I wonder if why it is you love the era that you were a child watching, and then all of the Doctor Who sucks. Or at least if you're that way inclined, I think it's all pretty great. But
No, but there are
I've
definitely
never
people like
decided
that.
to lose my childhood kind of spirit.
I think Doctor Who is inherently childish, right? It's supposed to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah, it's a
Like
kid show.
it is a family show, right? That
Yeah.
is the point.
This is when people talk about wanting like darker, gritty Doctors. I'm like, do you really?
But this is why I'm glad you've got stuff like Torchwood or like we can have in
Yeah.
Big Finish, right? There are because kids aren't listening to Big Finish.
No, and Big Finish does go to darker places, I would say.
Yeah, not always, but it can, and that's okay. I think there is room for that in Doctor Who, but I think if just for the main show that's airing on a
Yeah.
Saturday/Sunday night on the BBC, it should probably be very family friendly.
It
That's
should
the
potentially
point.
scare the kids,
Yeah, but
but not to the point where
no more than a lot of kids' movies can be scary for
like
kids,
I think
right?
it's very important that when we finally televised the Time War, it was in a way that was like, no, the Doctor wins,
Yeah,
right? Like,
we can experience all the years of tragedy and horrors of war in audio dramas or in books and
yeah,
comics that
because
or wherever.
the televised version of the Time was like, yeah, it was dark, it was horrible, but it was the day
Here's
of the
the end where we won.
it was the day of the Doctor.
Yeah,
Like, despite it all, there's a. I think I said it to you on maybe when we were talking about Doctor Who last week after we finished doing Comics Unmasked about how there's the famous Kirk line from Search for Spock after he blows up the Enterprise. Well, Bones' line, and Kirk says, "Oh God, what have I done?" And Bones says to him, "You do what you always do. You took death and turned it into a fighting chance at life."
yeah.
And again, it feels similar to what, because aren't these two franchises are two big moralistic sci-fi franchises, Star Trek and Doctor
Yeah,
Who.
they started what 3 years apart from each other, something like
Yeah,
that.
and they're that ultimately the moral through line of both these shows is do good. Like,
It's fascinating that they are essentially the same idea of let's look at something not utopian necessarily, but a positive force for good in sci-fi from from the 60s. But it's one's fundamentally a British point of view and one's a very American.
yeah, and I think the
Style.
Doctor is the closest Britain has to a superhero.
Yes.
The Doctor is the British superhero.
Yeah. We absolutely we've spoken about this before.
Yeah, and they're, especially these days, I think it's an idealistic view of ourselves.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always been an idealistic view of ourselves, but it's hard not to think that even more at the moment.
Yeah.
As a nation, we are not necessarily in a good place.
It's the man coming in and fixing everything,
Yeah,
right? Meddling around a little bit and leaving things popping off, but things are better now, right? That's definitely not historically the British government.
no, not really.
It's how the British government wanted to see itself for hundreds of years.
But I do love how's it pronounced again? Taciturn?
Tactian?
Tactian.
Yeah.
I love her accusations to the Doctor. Like, I mean, I love the fact that she's decided to destroy the universe just because even she can't beat the Doctor's hope, right?
Yeah. It's like no, it's scary, but for the people who want to do vicious or manipulative things, it's like that's actually scary. Like when the Doctor goes off on the warpath and says their mind to something, you don't want to be in the way.
No, and it also adds an interesting note to older eras as well. Like, do you remember Good Man Goes to War?
Which one's that?
It's the Moffat episode where River's born, and
Yep.
you know how River tells the Doctor, to these people, Doctor means great warrior,
Yeah.
and not necessarily medicine man or healing man, which is why he's named himself that at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But if we take into account these lost Doctors, who potentially were more,
It's kind of the same thing with the War Doctor, right?
yeah. But the War Doctor is an act of a peaceful Doctor
Forced into
realizing there's no room for him in this universe.
That is like there is a war. He has to be something else for at least that time.
Make me because I rewatched the Night of the Doctor recently, actually, McGann's, because I was just going through iPlayer. It was there. It's like, it's 5 minutes. I love it. I'll rewatch it.
It is good.
And he specifically says, like, make me a warrior. But even then,
I wouldn't mind getting a little bit more McGann on screen for the 60th.
Yeah, I would love more McGann on screen. But even then, it's a lie. It's a lie to himself. We see John Hurt, right, as the old John Hurt, that he hurts because of what he's never stopped wanting to be who
The
he
Doctor.
actually,
Yeah.
like, even his final act of deciding to blow everything to Kingdom Come is a case of it's this or the rest of the world the rest of the universe dies, right? Like, my people and the Daleks will not stop burning the universe.
Pretty much, yeah.
It's the act of a desperate man, but he maybe not right then in that moment, but he finds a way. I mean, and it's worth noting that the Time Lords were never wiped out.
No, it was just
He just didn't remember what happened. The Doctors always save the day.
Yes.
And even then, I like seeing those 3 Doctors. And we all know that, in theory, there was never meant to be a War Doctor. It was meant to be 9.
Sure.
But even seeing those Doctors, right? You've got Hurt's Doctor lost him in it. Doesn't get these 2 younger or older Doctors.
Right.
You've got Tennant, who's still angry.
I love that arc of those few Doctors where you've got Eccleston being grieving, right? He's very much a grieving Doctor. Tennant, he's turned that into rage, and then
11's had to lock it away because what choice did he have?
It's not acceptance; it's more just denial, right?
I don't think it's denial. It's like that. I can't go on and in because of look what I just nearly did as 10.
Yeah,
like I can't be that angry, and you see it break out of him every now and again.
Yeah,
usually when injustice is happening, right?
Yeah, and he just can't stand it.
He's old.
He is,
and it's dulled. It's not gone, but he has no choice.
Time has passed.
And I think getting a family helps him move past it as well, because that's what Amy and Rory are, right?
Yeah,
they're not companions. They become his. He's a much more stationary Doctor, almost.
Yeah, I mean, there's the episode where he literally just comes and lives with them for like a year.
Yeah, like he gets a family for a while, and it allows him to
readjust to reality.
It's what grief. It is. It's what grief is, right? It doesn't go away, but over.
You have other stuff that comes and replaces it.
Yeah, but he's never stopped thinking about it. Which is case in point. That's how he solved the day, right? Because he's never stopped thinking about it. So by the time he's 11, he's figured out all the years he's thought about how to save everyone. He's figured out how to do it. And
he always did do it.
Yeah. And the moment when all the Doctors show up to
it's great.
I went to the cinema to see it when it was on.
Me too.
And God, that moment.
Yeah. No, that was great.
And then you get to Capaldi's Doctor, who's not sure if he doesn't know what to do with himself now that he has.
That such a significant period of his life has been defined by that event.
Yeah.
Now what?
Like, the previous 3 Doctors are trying to prove they're good because
because they have to.
They don't think they are, is the thing.
Yeah.
Like, they're living with what they view as a crime, right?
Yeah.
Which is a crime.
Yes, it's definitely a war crime.
Yeah. So they're trying so hard to
Make up for it.
Yeah. While 12 knows he never did it.
So does he still feel the need to be that good?
Yeah, which
and
I
it
think
turns
is
out, yeah.
also why he's a bit more of a classic. He's more of a classic Doctor, I think, as well, in the fact that he does lean a little bit more into classic Who stylings, and
It's a little bit more grumpy.
but I like that you see the grief is fully kind of still there, but
It's okay now.
you see it in his famous Saigon War speech, how war is pointless.
Oh, that's so good.
Like, because he
I
knows
love
what
that.
he's done. He knows, like, he's the man who doesn't want other people to go through what he's gone through.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about that speech recently, actually.
Go on.
And it's my favourite Doctor speech, and I think from a kind
Of all.
I think so. It's certainly up there.
It is up there.
If it's not, it's certainly in contention for the top spot.
Yeah.
I'm still sad, like, Jodie still never quite got her speech.
Not yet.
Not yet, no. And, but, like, it is a lovely moment, that scene. Like, of him talking down these people who are gonna effectively mutually assure each other's destruction, right? Because they can't figure out how to talk.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, what's the point of war? Because eventually, once you've done all the bloodshed, you're still going to have to talk.
So why not just skip all that part?
Yeah, and he's right. But I was thinking, it's like, it also only works if, like, both sides are operating on good faith, right?
Which, again, I've not watched that again yet.
They are.
But correct me if I'm wrong, it's not even that they are, it's that he's forcing them to.
Well, no, but they are. Like, they both have... Kate doesn't want her world destroyed.
Yeah.
And the Zygons want freedom, effectively.
Yeah.
They are both in that case, they are both operating from a realm of, like, neither of them is wrong.
That's true.
But, like, if one side...
If your aim is just to hurt.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I guess is why he doesn't give that speech about destroying Daleks and things, right? Like,
Yes, because they have no aim other than conquest and pain and victory.
Yeah.
Whereas these are wanting something for themselves as opposed to against others.
The Doctor, a great character.
Yeah.
One of this country's greatest fictional inventions.
Definitely up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think certainly one of the best to potentially look up to.
It's very intentionally a role model, right?
Yeah,
it's an aspiration.
Falls
like,
into being
again,
a kids show primarily.
Right. Again, I appreciate definitely not a perfect character, not like flawless.
But I think
very
that
clearly
has to
flaws.
work into them being an aspirational character.
Yes, they're
right?
relatable because they feel real, because they feel like a person, as opposed to just here's the role model. That,
they're not infallible. In the same way, a good Superman isn't infallible.
Yeah, of course. They have faults and flaws. And
Superman back on the BBC.
Yeah, I believe all the episodes are on iPlayer.
They are, yes. With all American purchases these days, they do that. They air it weekly, but they just put everything on iPlayer. I think it's just showing the canny realisation of how people watch television these days.
The idea of, look, if you wanted to watch this, you're going to find it. We might as well just throw it all up there. And if you want to watch it weekly, great. But if not, you might as well watch it from us.
Yeah, they do it with all American purchases these days, like Gossip Girl and stuff.
No, that's smart.
But yeah,
we'll probably be back to talk about Doctor Who in the future.
Yeah, I'd like to, maybe not like super regularly, but I'd like to do the odd Doctor Who episode here and there. Maybe we could do an episode on Big Finish recommendations, or we should certainly maybe do a half-hour episode on the New Year's Day special.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we'll wait and see if there's anything worth talking about in the New Year's Day special.
Okay, yeah.
I think the next special, who knows? We don't know what that is.
Maybe we could do an episode on Big Finish recommendations and talk about the New Year's Day special, whatever there is to say about it.
Yeah. I think without a doubt.
Aisling B's in it, and that's already win in my book.
Who is?
Is it Aisling B? Is that how it's
Ashlim.
Aisling, yep. I'm terrible at pronouncing names. I apologise.
It's, to be fair, in your defence, Irish pronunciation is ridiculous.
That's not fair.
Because how is AIS Ash? it just is. Just don't question it. It just is. But yeah. I do like her, so that'll be good.
I have a feeling it's going to be a Dr. Light episode.
One of those.
Yeah.
Maybe. It's hard to be too annoyed because even after this, we've got 2 episodes left. At least one of them is going to be feature length and very important and Doctor heavy, let's be honest.
Yeah. So here's a thought. As we've been talking about Big Finish a bit, out of the 3 outstanding, once this era is wrapped, out of the 3 outstanding Doctors, who's going to sign up first?
Who have we got left?
Smith, Capaldi, and Whittaker.
Whittaker.
I'd lean towards Whittaker and maybe Smith. Maybe.
I actually think you could get Capaldi.
I think you'll get Capaldi in a few years because I think he feels like he's said everything he wants to say.
For now, yeah.
And in recent interviews he's done, he's not even sure if he would want to come back for a 60th anniversary.
Which is fair.
So I think you will get Capaldi, but I think you're going to get Capaldi in a... I'm getting ready to retire from potentially doing live action stuff, but I'm happy.
I think it's when he's acting a little bit less. Yeah. But you do have to remember he has been a lifelong Doctor Who fan.
Yeah. He will have listened to... He's in Big Finish audios.
Yeah.
So is Tennant. Tennant is in a few before he ever became a Doctor.
Do you know what? I was my friend at work was listening to one at work, and he goes, "Come over here and listen to this voice." He goes, "Is that who I think it is?" I was like, "Shit, it is. It's Tennant being a Nazi."
Oh yeah, he's in the Colditz episode, Colditz one, isn't he?
Yeah. I was just like, "Huh." Just there.
You know, but Tennant has played 2 of my favourite heroes. Now,
who's the other one?
Scrooge McDuck.
Of course. Should have known.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I agree. I think we might see Whittaker first. Smith, I feel, is still really wanting to make it in Hollywood.
Yeah, I don't think it's anything against Doctor. I think he clearly has a love for what he did.
Like watching him in Last Night in Soho as well.
Yeah, and that's it. Again, I don't think he has anything against Doctor Who. I think he loves what he did on the show.
Yeah.
I think he will be open to doing more, without a doubt, at some point. But he is easily the busiest out of all of them right now.
He is the Doctor Who reign during Doctor Who's at its most multimedia.
Yes.
At its most when BBC were selling.
Also, the era which
screwdriver Wii remotes, for God's sake,
where it hit America the most.
Yeah.
Right, to a lot of Americans who came into Doctor Who, it was during the Matt Smith era.
Yeah.
Which, good for you if you did, because it's great stuff.
Yeah.
As much as it's not my favorite period, it's great.
We also got 5 free video games from BBC during that time period, which are now just lost to the world. Which yay. Yeah, which is a shame. Yeah. I wish I still had them. They were good.
Yeah, I played one of them.
Yeah, they were surprisingly good. They unfortunately decided then, people are enjoying these, we could probably make money by licensing out actual games.
And then nothing ever happened.
But no, they
did. They did. They're just not very good.
There was Eternity Clock, which was bad, despite Matt Smith mocapping an entire 2D platformer.
Yeah.
I've heard the Doctor Who stuff with Lego Dimensions was pretty good.
I mean, might be.
You had to buy an entire Lego Dimensions set to get at it. And there was a few mobile things. But yeah, those 5 free point-and-click adventure games were really solid.
Yeah, I agree. But I think Matt Smith is the busiest of all the Doctors or ex-Doctors to be, in that he's still doing a lot of high-profile work. Yeah. He's about to be on a bloody Game of Thrones prequel.
Yes.
Like, he hasn't got time, essentially, right
And
now.
potentially, the reason being is that's when Doctor Who hit big in America, right?
Yes.
But I mentioned it earlier in the episode how people talk about like, oh, all these young actors who were in like earlier seasons of Doctor Who are big now, like Andrew Garfield, Kerry Mulligan.
Oh, was Andrew Garfield in it?
The New York Dalek episode.
Oh, of
building.
course.
Yeah, like
That is not a good episode.
No, it's not. But
it's not.
As a sucker for that era of like American history at times, it works for me. But you're right, it's not a good episode.
Daleks in Manhattan is not good. I'm sorry.
No, it's not. I like it, but it's not.
And once again, you're not listening to this, but to the one friend of mine who insists that Love and Monsters is good, no, it's not. Shut up. It's not good. It's terrible. It's the worst episode. Go away.
Love and Monsters is one episode I would be tempted to actually skip upon rewatching it. Because it's what I've actually decided to do it. Because I decided to watch Trial of the Time Lord. And I was like, well, Trial of the Time Lord is quite close to the end of Classic Who, right? Mm-hmm. It's only 3 seasons of Sylvester McCoy, the TV movie. And then I may as well just rewatch New Who.
Did I tell you I nearly accidentally started rewatching New Who when I started watching Flux?
Well, it is on iPlayer. It's relatively easy to do.
Well, that was the thing. I went to watch Flux on iPlayer. I went to put the first episode on. And it said Doctor Who Flux, season 13, whatever it is. I was like, all right, cool, click play. And then it starts playing. I'm like, something's not right here. What? What's going on? And then I was like, why is it playing Rose?
Yeah, because it's all obviously lumped together, isn't it?
Yes. So when I said press play, it thought you meant, oh, just play Doctor Who.
Yeah. Never.
And there was a part of me that
one long continuous series.
Right, and there was part of me that was like, maybe I just start watching this again. Oh, it was so good. But that's
have you
something for another time, I think.
Yes. We've got 10 minutes though until we hit 2.5 hours. So there's one little story
okay.
I want to
sure, why not at this point
end on, because I've been watching a few fan-made documentaries on YouTube that are rather well put together, and one of them was talking about how Doctor Who came back, but in the process also talked about how it went away. And you know Michael Grade, current Tory Lord, God, he hated Doctor Who. So he cancelled it at the end of Baker's first season.
Yeah.
Or put it on hiatus, but the fan outcry brought it back after 18 months and Trial of the Time Lord happened.
Mm-hmm.
He then fired. Then I think he'd left to go to Channel 4, but whoever replaced him also wasn't a fan. So they fired Baker, Sylvester McCoy came in, and eventually they managed to get the show cancelled. However, Michael Gray came back to BBC while they were producing the new series.
Oh God!
He was sitting on the board, and apparently he said he tried his hardest to kibosh the show. Like he said to apparently the director of the BBC at the time, like, "Can we cancel it before it happens?" And the team on Doctor Who argued that, no, we're so far along with this, it'll be seen as incredibly wasteful if you just don't go through with it. And we'll get a lot of flack for wasting license payer
thank God.
money. So it happened, but he tried his hardest to kill it in the crib, man. And again, this is hearsay. I'll be upfront and say I could be wrong on this. I don't want to slander a Tory Lord after all. But
it is a Tory Lord, it's believable.
Yeah. And
I mean, we just for context for those outside the UK, we are currently in a position where the Tory government ministers are claiming a crime that they may or may not have committed a year ago doesn't need investigating because it was a year ago, and the police don't investigate crimes that happened a year ago.
Just imagine the context of that. Like, you get caught speeding, and it's like, no, so I'm not speeding.
So I'm not speeding anymore.
It's like, we just historic case.
Yeah. Also, they are currently planning so that the ministers in the government can overrule courts of law.
Yeah, they're putting themselves above the law.
Like, quite literally go... I saw a hypothetical earlier of In the UK, our elections are every 5 years constitutionally. Not constitutionally, but every 5 years at most, we have to have an election. And there's an argument that should they pass these powers that let them overrule the courts, they can go, we're just not going to hold an election, we're just going to carry on. And when the courts go, you have to, they can just go, no, we're not, we'll overrule it.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, for putting themselves completely above the law. They are firmly saying the law applies to you, not to us.
And it's not even specifically just, oh, this law or that law. Like, sweeping past, disregard any law.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Tory's gonna Tory.
I mean, modern Tory's gonna modern Tory. Because tradition, I mean...
Like, exactly what your Conservatives? Exactly what you're conserving here?
One of the most high-profile, traditional Tories, let's say Thatcher,
is rule of law.
Very pro rule of law. I think there are quotes of her saying, because I'm sure I've seen stuff floating around recently with all this going on, of no, the government is objectively not above the law. That is the point. That was kind of her stance. And while I have a lot of problems with a lot of things that Margaret Thatcher did, she was right on this one.
Well, however, on this note, I think I'm going to end the episode on a posit to the audience. When in doubt in life, do as Jazz would do and ask, what would the doctor do? Don't ask, what would the Tory do? And on that note, we'll see you soon. Warp, 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 warp.